Of course, it's not, it seems like every time I start, there we go. Okay, so what's our agenda tonight? First of all, let me ask, do we have any visitors in our audience? I see we have 22 on the line right now. So other than Kelly, we have all members on. So great to have you all here this evening. Our membership is pretty steady. It's been at about 58 for about a year now. So we're still on board with that. We have a number of methods that you can follow us and communicate with CapMac via social media, of course, our website, our Twitter feed. We have a Facebook site, we have a YouTube channel, and we have a Slack group. So welcome everyone this evening. I hope everyone is staying out of the rain. It's threatening looking outside. We've had a little rain here in Round Rock, but not a great deal. So we've got a number of things going on tonight. I have a quick tip to make. Nancy's has a product review. We've got a new thing that I'll talk a little bit more about later in the program called Get to Know. And of course, our feature speaker by Kelly on doing spring cleaning of your Apple devices. So quick look at our board. Here we are in our colorful glory. One of these days, I'm hoping we can get back together and get a real group photo instead of having to add Nancy's photo in there, but we're working on it. So we have a number of appointed positions. I've listed here those that are currently filled, and we still have a few that if someone's willing to be to assist with us, let me know and we can fill in those open slots. We had a good April meeting. Nancy gave a program about the M1 processor Max and Apple Silicon. Again, just to mention, we do have our YouTube channel and we have programs out there now from a little over a year. So we've got a nice selection of programs that you might want to go back and look at. As always, the board is looking at and interested in hearing your feedback. What programs would you like to see? Is there a podcast like the one Kelly is on that you listen to about Macs and Apple products that you'd like us to go out and reach out to the speakers of the podcast to see if they would join us some night? So let us know what kinds of programs you would like to see. We do have an active help desk still. Unfortunately, it's not a live place on a table back at our Mexican restaurant, but if you have a question, you can send it in either to me, post it in the Slack team room, and I'll get it to our support team and they can get some answers back to you. We seem to have an ongoing list of questions, 2 or 3 a month that come in, and our help desk team are able to answer that. I came across something just a day or two ago, and I thought it was worth sharing here. It was on one of the emails I get, but it shows the versions of iOS currently in use across all iPhones. Remarkably, perhaps I shouldn't say remarkably, since we work with Apple or use Apple products, iOS 14, the latest version of iOS, is the predominant version. If we were to look at something like this on the Android line, I think you would see a much wider dispersion of users of all sorts of varieties of versions of Android. A number of items of interest have come in over the last month, and I've tried to make them available in the email I sent out, but I reiterated them here probably in such small print that you can't read them, but they will be in the slide deck when Robert posts it later on in the week. If you come across something you think the rest of us would be interested in, let us know so we can add it and share it this way. obviously, looking at this list, it's not just Apple products. We've had talks or mentions in here about the decline of Intel, the efforts of SpaceX, and a variety of other things. So if you have something you think our membership would be interested in, let me know. I can add it into this list for the next meeting. As we've mentioned before, Tom, I believe, mentioned earlier on, we do have an active rapport with the London Mac user group. A few of us have even appeared on their podcast. And let me simply suggest, if you are looking for a podcast, another podcast to listen to, I personally have far too many. I think the last time I looked, I have 2,500 in my to be read or listened to list. But if you're looking for a new one, this might be one that you would like to add to your list or try out, because it gives a different perspective on Apple products. Now, I'm going to take just a minute here because I failed to say something earlier. We talked about very early on the fact that we have a YouTube channel. One of the things that I would really encourage everyone that's a member of CapMac to do is, number one, if you have a ID or membership in YouTube, follow our channel. And secondly, go through and do a thumbs up on the podcast or the videos that we have posted to the channel. That helps get our videos before more people, because of the way the algorithms work. The more followers, more subscribers, the more likes, the more likely it's going to be suggested to others. So please, if you have an account on YouTube, go in there and do that for us. Now, getting back to what I have here on the slides, we've been working on, or I should say Nancy has been working on for some time now, a workshop on Homekit. Do you want to say anything about that tonight, Nancy? If you're talking, Nancy, you're muted.
Okay, I'm par for the course now. I've done my mistake for the night. Well, maybe not. We have 5 people who are registered for the workshop, and each one of us has an entirely different project that we want to be able to do. From how do you make Siri turn on your dining room lights for you by just telling her, all the way to using Siri to open up your garage door. So of the 5 people who are registered for this, they've all gotten an idea about what it is that they need as far as equipment, or they're waiting to hear what Jeff has to say. Jeff Gammett, of course, is going to be teaching this. Other members may participate non-verbally in this. So if you want to hear what he's saying to everybody and figure out how to do some things, you're more than welcome to do that. And we'll post the information about the meeting when we have it. But you're not allowed to talk, because the people who registered and bought the equipment are the ones who get first dibs. Jeff Gammett is teaching it. And I don't have a date. I'm waiting to hear back from Jeff right now but it's going to be soon. It's going to be in the next 2 weeks. So I'm personally really looking forward to this. And the nice thing about doing this as a workshop is that he's going to say, okay, step 1, step 2. So that those of us who don't have a clue what we're doing can actually make these things work. So it's going to be fun. And if we have good feedback from it and people like it, we'll try to have some more.
All right, very good. Thank you, Nancy. I'm looking forward to seeing that workshop, because I'm one of those 5 that want to do some automation.
John, I will say that a guest I had invited just signed on, Pat Beulah, so we do have one guest.
Well, welcome aboard, Pat. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
I'm distracted here because I'm reading what people have been adding to the chat while I'm supposed to be talking to you guys. So let's move on. We're starting something new tonight. We talked about this at the last board meeting, which is we've been meeting now virtually for over a year. Normally, when we would meet at our Mexican restaurant, we would sit around the tables, we'd talk, we'd have a lot of opportunity to get to know one another. We've been missing that for a while. So what we're going to start tonight is a getting to know a member of CapMac. Now, I convinced Koki to volunteer for tonight, but in a future meeting, I'd like one of you to do it, so that we can, at each of the meetings going forward, have someone say, well, I'm, John Doe, and I like doing this activity at home. I've got this hobby. I have this Mac equipment, whatever you want to share with the group to help us get to know you better. So be thinking about that. And I'm hoping to hear from some of you so that I can schedule you for a future meeting. If you don't, you're going to be putting up with the board members until I get some of you to volunteer. So please let us know. Speaking of that, and I forgot to make up a slide, because of a conflict that I have, the board has agreed to change our meeting days from the second Tuesday of the month to the first Monday of the month. I'm sorry, the second Monday of the month.
No.
So, or the Monday before the second Tuesday. I put it that way.
Aren't we just changing the board meeting?
Correct. Isn't that what I said?
No, you said the second Tuesday.
Sorry. I'm trying to think while I'm talking. That's the problem with not having prepared a slide. You're right, Robert. The board meetings right now are the first Tuesday. So what we are going to do is to move the board meetings from now on to the first Monday. So we can work out a scheduling issue that I have. So let me go ahead and turn this over to Koki. Are you there, Koki?
Koki's not logged in.
Oh. Well, we'll keep going. And if she logs in later, we'll pick her and add her. Otherwise, she'll be on the agenda for next week or next month. So what's after this?
You want to talk about polls?
This is a good time, Robert. Why don't you mention what you've put together and put it up for us?
Okay. We were talking in the board about, we tried this last meeting and it was just kind of impromptu, but I going to try to put together polls that you can do on Zoom for the meeting. Anybody that has any suggestions about polls, let me know or let John know, and we'll get those up. But what I did, I'm going to click it now, and I'm going to launch the poll. What it is, I just said, what Apple devices do you use? And you can do multiple choice on that. You can, and unfortunately, these are it was limited to the number of items I have on the poll, and it slides down. So I don't have like Apple TVs, but if anybody wants to participate, and then I believe there's a way for me to let everybody view the poll after it's ended. But that can be just kind of an ongoing thing. It doesn't have to delay the meeting or anything. Is everybody seeing the poll okay?
I am. I'm not sure if I'm adding anything to it.
You should be able to just click a box beside the various items.
I don't see a box.
Oh, okay.
I see other people doing it though.
On the M1.
Yeah, I saw it.
I see a lot of people answering here and inputting information, but for whatever reason, I don't see it myself.
It may be because you're a co-host.
Ah, could be.
Okay, are you talking about on the Zoom meeting or what we use at home for a computer? That's my question. I don't.
Ah, that's a very good question.
Just what you're using in general. I mean, what equipment you have at home? Do you have a desktop and a laptop.
Personal use.
Yeah. Not just the Zoom meeting.
Well, Robert, I'll share you my input later.
Okay. All right. That's probably what it is because I made you co-host.
Yeah, because I was seeing other people respond, but for some reason I couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
I
I
have
think
the same problem and I'm listed as co-host also.
Okay.
I can
Well, we'll
unlist
send it
y'all
to
as
you.
co-hosts for the
That's
moment.
okay.
That's all right.
We'll just send you the data and you can update it so we can present this at the next. I want to add it into the next meeting, although we're seeing a good deal of feedback right here.
It's real easy to take y'all off.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, there you go.
I can add you back in a little bit. Okay. Well, that's all. I'll try to come up with some different polls. We thought it would at least give some information to the board about our audience. And like I say, anybody that comes up with any ideas for a poll, we'd be glad to hear it and put it up. And we can have more than one poll in a meeting, but you know.
Well, thanks for taking care of putting all that together and sharing it. Okay, is Koki on yet?
I haven't seen her join.
Okay. Let me move on. Oops, went the wrong direction. Okay, so let me share a quick tip that I came across. And all of us are always looking at our phones and maybe our AirPods to see what the battery is. There's actually a widget to put onto your home screen on your phone or on your iPad that tells you the current battery status of all of the devices connected to it. Now, in some cases, I checked my wife's phone and it was already on hers. When I went to my phone, it wasn't. So I'm going to simply assume no one has it there and tell you how to get it there. But I put together 3 shots from my phone, as you can see on this slide. And if you go to your home screen, that is swiping on from the left to the right is where you get to your home screen. There's an edit button at the bottom. If you click that, then you can get edit what widgets are in your home screen. If you then click at the top right-hand corner on a little plus sign, which is kind of hard to get to because it's right near the edge. But if you do that, you get what is shown in the second screenshot. And there's all the widgets that you can add. And if you scroll down as shown here, one of those widgets is batteries. And going to the third screenshot, you see batteries. Now there's 4 different kinds of screens. This is the small one. There's a one that's wider, and then there's a bigger one still. So you can pick which of the 3 versions of the batteries apps you want to install. As you can see, well, let me just go. Once you do that, then click on add a widget. Now that you've done that, in your home screen, you'll see all your widgets. And in this case, as you can see there right next to the yellow box, I have a widget with 4 circles, 2 of which are green and showing percentages of the battery from my iPhone and for my Apple Watch. If I had had my earbuds connected, it would have shown the battery on them as well. So this is not a big deal, but it's a quick way, if you have this, to simply open your phone up and see what the battery is on all of those devices. Any questions? All right.
Me? Oh. Well,
So next up is Nancy, and I'm going to turn off my screen sharing. And Nancy, you can take over.
Okay. One of the things that bothers me a lot is when I see people having to hold their iPad up with their arms in order to read it or use it or watch something. And if you've ever had to do that for very long, and you're old, your arms get tired. And the other thing that I see people doing is putting them down on a table, and then they're looking down all the time because that's the only way they can see what's there. And if you happen to be on a Zoom meeting, the visual view of you is not as enhancing as you would prefer. So I came across this. Actually, I came across it because Prince William uses it, and somebody wrote it about it in the newspaper. This little, and I'm going to show you some more information, but this little stand, this is how big it is. Whoops. Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
Can she go to screen share so we can see it larger?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Or just,
Hello, I'm
just
here.
go to speaker instead of gallery and she's larger.
Up in your right-hand corner where it
I'm going to
says,
show you some images that are going to give you better information. I just want you to get an idea about how it works. You can turn the iPad around and around. You can flip it so that you can look at it so that it's slanted, or you can keep it straight up. And it comes with two different, I don't know my right from my left, two different size clamps, so you can hold, and I'm going to show you how many different devices this works with. It's called a retail product, which means that it's really, really sturdy. And I can see that it would be very useful in a retail setting. So let me get to my slide here. Well, that's not it.
that is. We
Can
can
you
see it.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, good. First try. Okay, this is called the Above Tech Kiosk iPad stand.
It
Now,
just
I've
went
never
black.
heard of Above Tech before.
Nancy, it went black. We could see it for a minute, but now it's disappeared.
All right, let me put it back on my other monitor, see if that helps. Except it won't. Dadgummit, I thought I'd made my mistake for the day. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is what it looks like in the picture form. As I said, I've never heard of Above Tech as a producer of products, but I can tell you that this is a very well-designed and sturdy product. So maybe this is something new for them, or maybe they, I don't know, but it's something that you can rely on. It's $37.99 on Amazon. It's more than that on their website. The dimensions are 7.1 times 7.1 times 10.6. So it's a good enough size that you can almost sit it on a table and just make eye contact, just right in front of your face. It rotates 360 degrees. It fits iPads from 6 inches to 13.5 inches. And it comes in white or black. Now, these are the compatible, excuse me, these are the devices that are compatible for Apple products. And it goes from everything to the 12.9-inch iPad Pro to the iPad 2. And the reason is because of the two sizes of clamps that come with it, so that you can, and they adjust. In addition being two, they also adjust. So it's it fits almost everything. It also works with, should you need to know, some Microsoft products or Microsoft using products. If you have family or anybody who uses those and you want to give them something nice, I would recommend this. So, as I said, it comes with two brackets. I was calling them clamps, but they're brackets. And they go, you can see here, they go from the first one from 9.6 to 7.7. So you have a lot of, and they just stretch out, and then clamp on. It holds it real tight. And then the smaller one goes from 8.0 to 6.6. So there's almost no product out there that we're still using in the form of iPads that this won't work with. And it'll probably work with whatever iPad you get next, which is important. Now, here's the things that it does. As I said before, it rotates 360 degrees. It has a 180-degree bend. And if you look at the second picture, you can't see my mouse, but the second picture shows you how much it will flip up and back so that you can set it so that you can read it or anybody else can read it. And that's all it is. I mean, it's a stand for an iPad. But I've tried 5 or 6 iPad stands, and this is the only one that I've ever tried that I really like. I've used it with my grandson when he was, honing in on whatever it is he's playing, and he was trying to hold it in his hand. I mean, it doesn't work. So I recommend it. I think it's really well built, and I'm glad Prince William got one so that they write about it in the newspaper. Are there any questions? Okay.
All right, well, thank you for that, Nancy. And just as a reminder, we're always looking for people to do product reviews. So all of you out there are certainly eligible to help us talk about some product or app that you really think is useful and want to share with the rest of the group. So if you want to have that kind of a segment on a future Mac program, let us know, let the board know, and we'll get you scheduled in.
And you get points.
Yeah, and you get points. Now, since Koki's here, let's take a step back and turn it over to Koki so we can all get to know Koki a little better.
Okay, I'm ready. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I moved to Texas in 2018 because I followed Tommy Craig. I met him in Baltimore in an elevator, and we've had our ups and downs. That's what we always said when we talked about that. I started working at the School for the Blind as a substitute, and then they had an opening, and I applied for it, but I did not get hired. Someone else got hired that had a college degree, and she worked 3 days and quit. So I got the job, and I worked there for 34 years. Tommy was very active in the CapMac before I retired. So he told me all about what was going on, and we met there, and he said, I can't wait for you to retire so you can start going with me. And I said, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And so I retired in 2014. And that is when I joined the CapMac users group. And then after Tommy passed away, they asked me if I wouldn't mind serving in his board position and until it was over. And then I decided to continue in his board position. Tommy and I did Apple stuff from the time I got to Texas because he was really into his Apple II Plus and his Apple II, and we did a lot of, I read a lot of code to him, which he put in, and boy, was that difficult sometimes because here I am, he's almost totally blind, and I have enough vision to read it, but I still couldn't get all those little checks and clicks and whatever little codes parts there were correct a lot of times. And so, but we had fun doing it. We spent hours doing it. And then when we got done with the codes, we'd play whatever games it was or whatever. And then we spent a lot of time playing some of the games. And then Tommy started working with adaptive equipment. And after I retired, we went on cruises, and some of my favorite cruises, well, all of them were my favorite, but the first one was always my favorite because I had to pull Tommy's ears and legs and everything to get him to go because it was with my family. And so he finally decided, oh, I'll go with you. And he had a great time. And that's when we brought back our dog. It's a husky, and it's a stuffed husky, and it's big. And we brought it on the plane, and everybody on the plane said it was the nicest dog they ever met, the most friendliest dog. So that was a lot of fun. And so we had a great time cruising, doing a lot of different cruises here and there. And the one thing we learned about cruises is you got to have a lot of money if you want to make sure you have technology, unless you want to use Windows stuff. And so we were a little bit disappointed in that. But as soon as we got off the cruises, Tommy was always on his phone calling people and telling them what we were doing. And that was always really fun, knowing that we could get back to our technology once we landed. And then, of course, I lost Tommy in October 26, 2018. And then I had the funeral and everything, and I miss him very, very much. I miss his support with technology because he was very, very technical, and he could get all the little technical stuff that I'm now learning by myself. And I really miss that he's not here to help me with that. But I know I got a big group here that helps me, and I'm very thankful for that. And that's me.
Thank you very much, Koki.
You're welcome.
Now, like I said, we're looking for someone to fill in this same segment at the June meeting. So please let me know if you're willing. So having finished with all the preliminaries, that brings us up to the feature.
Don, it looks like Kelly just volunteered for the June meeting.
I raised my hand, yeah.
Ah, well, great.
Oh, great.
Well, Nancy, since you recruited Kelly to be our speaker tonight, do you want to introduce her?
You're muted.
Oh.
Maybe it's for the best. I don't know.
We all run into that a lot.
I know. I do too.
Okay, Kelly's taken over my role as the Mac Observer, trying to keep the boys in line. It's very difficult, but she's doing an excellent job of it, and she deserves our admiration because they get kind of, they're techies, you know. What can I say? She has a very, very popular podcast, and she often has some of the boys on there with her, and they get into some some of the things they get into are like what's going on currently in the industry, but they also get into the technical stuff. And if you listen to the podcast, then it helps you keep up with what's going on. As she said, she's a consultant that does tech support. And if I've forgotten anything else, Kelly, you can fill it in for me, okay?
Okay.
But we're delighted to have you here.
I'm so glad. And Nancy is a master recruiter in this, by the way. But I started out saying that there were a bunch of people here who just love to listen to me talk and would like to have me come talk to the meeting. And it's really hard to say no to an invitation frame like that, I have to say. So I hope both of y'all are excited that I showed up. Basically, I want to, before I talk about anything, I want to let you know that I really want for this to be a conversation. So if you can help it, you don't have to be muted. Like if you have a quiet background where you are, because I want people to jump in and ask questions and have me repeat myself, or if you didn't quite understand it. I don't want to just stand here and like hurl information at you for half an hour and be like, good talk. I would definitely like everybody to come away with some understanding, because most of what I want to talk about is practical tips and like hands-on with the stuff that we're doing. So if something doesn't make sense and I can't see everybody on the screen, I do have a nice big monitor, but it's still giving me 2 screens of people because y'all have awesome attendance at your meetings. So I may not be able to see if you like try and wave at me or whatever. So just feel free to give me a big ol' hey. And I know you have them in Texas. And let me know if I need to go over it again, or it didn't quite make sense, or at some point I have stopped speaking English and you need me to take another shot at it, I'm here. So what I want to talk about, like on a basic level, is spring cleaning your tech. It's still basically spring. So one of the first things to do is not just, get your alcohol wipe and your little lint-free cloth and give it a good rub. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the software you have and the files that you have and the personal information that you deal with and that is all part of your life, and all of the stuff that you have outsourced to all these little screens. And I just dropped one on the floor. So let me grab that real quick, because it's one thing to drop it on the floor. It's another entirely if I step on my work phone. So I'd like not to. So the first thing I want to talk about is installing updates. As you may have heard, this is even more important lately because with Big Sur, with macOS 11, 11.3.1 is the current version right now. And if you are on anything less than 11.3, if you're on 11, but the second digit is not 0.3, you need to fix it. There is an active exploit that is currently being attacked in the previous versions of macOS. It's not great. You can read way more about the details. We talked about it over on Daily Observations if you want to find out more. What you need to know is that it's bad and that the solution is to run Software Updater and get it updated. The current version of iOS is iOS 14.5.1. And you'll want to update to that as well. If you got to 14.5 for the glory of mask unlock and all the other things and app tracking transparency and all that stuff, we've covered a load of that also over at Daily Observations. And most of the reason I point that out is because I don't have time to get into all of it here. But there's a lot of stuff that came in 14.5, and .1 is just the optimization for that. Sometimes a system update comes out, particularly on iOS, and you'll have a hard time with it. Like sometimes on older devices, you'll see that your battery life kind of takes a hit, and this helps fix that in some of those cases. So there's definitely some opportunities for improvement there, and Apple took them. So make sure you're on, I don't remember what watchOS comes out to. I think it's 7.4. And it did not get a subsequent update. So just every once in a while, walk through and make sure everything's up to date. You can do update automatically and let that stuff just sort of happen overnight. And you can just let it sort of magically end up being current for you and just sort of hand you new features. Not everyone does that. And whether you do or not, this is definitely one of those moments where you need to make sure that those things are current, because it can leave your computer open to some pretty serious data losing, computer bricking kinds of attacks. And I cannot stress strongly enough how much that sucks when that happens. And the recovery from that is, even if you have it, even if somebody was here and talked to everybody about backups and how backups are amazing, and everybody here has a time machine backup that's current as of an hour ago, coming back from that is still just such a pain in the neck that yes, you can do it, but you don't have to if you just go click update, hang out and wait. You will need to restart, so maybe don't do it now, because I have way more stuff to tell you.
Kelly, I have a question.
Yes.
If you're running, for example, I have 32-bit apps that I depend on, so I'm running on 10.14.6. Some extension, who knows?
Yeah.
Whatever.
10.14.6. 10.14.6 is the update to that. I believe. I believe 10.14.6 was fixed the same issue.
Okay, there was a security update probably about 10 days ago. Was that okay? So I'm patched.
Yes.
In other words, if you have the latest security patch, then you're good.
Yes.
Okay.
So the specific exploit in Big Sur is only in Big Sur and Catalina, and it has to do with some of the system protection that was implemented in Catalina. There was a bonus security update for Mojave, and I don't remember if it goes back any further, but there was also an update for iOS 12. So if you have an older device, maybe don't use it as much and it's stuck at 12, there's been a 12 update because there were some security patches that they released for iOS as well. And so, the one that the one you have for when the grandkids come over and want to play Candy Crush, or whatever, like whatever it is you do with that sort of previous iPad that is not the one that you're using all the time right now. If part of the reason is because it's stuck at iOS 12, there is an iOS 12 update out for it, and
Right.
it's definitely a thing you want to make sure of. And part of the reason for that is because everybody's house is a network now, because everybody's got a bunch of stuff on it, and if you leave one of those doors open, then people can get in, and somebody can get in on your network, then sort of the rest of the stuff on your network is open season. So maybe you don't care so much if something happens to that iPad, but if something happens to your good iPad, you got a problem. So that's
a real
why these updates are
interesting
important.
tip. I hadn't really thought about everything being connected. I see there's also a Safari update. Is that kind of in the security thing?
Safari updates sometimes are.
It's
I admit I haven't-
14.1.
Yeah, I admit I haven't read the Safari updates lately, so I'm not sure what that one's about. But Safari updates are usually functionality. Something is broken and this
That's
fixes
what it looks like.
or it's security with the same sort of thing. Like there's an attack that can be there's an exploit available here. There's a hole, and this will patch it. So particularly security, particularly Safari, if Safari is your primary browser, doubly so. You will definitely want to make sure that those updates run. And you can usually tell because Apple will be kind of cagey in the release notes, because they don't want to say like, you can use this to break into someone's machine and, create all kinds of mayhem. So sometimes you'll see the security release notes will be like, there are fixes and there are fixes and you should run them, and it's a little Jedi hand wave, Obi-Wan Kenobi style thing. That, like, when they do that, run that update as fast as you can, because there's a reason that they're not telling you what it is, and it's because it's probably kind of bad, and we don't want to tell everybody where the spare key is if we don't have to. So that's definitely one to look at. So making sure your updates are run is massive. The other thing you want to do, and people probably tell everybody this at like every meeting, you want to have proper backups, but you also want to have proper data archiving. And so there's probably stuff you want to keep that isn't necessarily on your internal hard drive, your boot drive. There may be, the most common one of these that I see a lot is photos. Like, I take loads of pictures with my phone, but I don't need to keep all of them on my phone. I don't even need to keep all of them on my computer. I keep them on a NAS that sits in this closet back here behind me. And that NAS is backed up. The thing you sort of have to think about is how many places do you have all your data? So I use an online backup service because if something happens to my house, my NAS is history. Like, if my computer's gone and my NAS is gone and my TiVo and my DVD player and all the other stuff, there's a lot of stuff in that closet. If my office is dematerialized and now I can't have any, and all of this stuff is gone, I can still recreate my data because I have backups. I have offsite backups for the NAS. I admit they've fallen out of practice as I quit going places about a year ago. And so, but I have like a couple of big hard drives that come and live here, and they back up everything on the NAS, and then they live at someone else's house.
Could you tell me what NAS is?
Oh, yes, network attached storage. It's a big box that holds a bunch of hard drives, and it just sits on your network, and will do the heavy lifting for you of files. So like my husband's entire CD collection has been ripped to MP3 because nothing has an optical drive anymore. So now he can listen to everything. All those files live on the NAS. I have a bunch of my DVD collection that's all on the NAS, which I can serve up through Plex on my Apple TV. So all my movies, all my CDs, backup files, like the pictures I took with previous phones that I still wish to keep, all that stuff lives on the NAS. It's just like it's a bunch of smaller hard drives, but it's like having one great big external hard drive that doesn't have to, that isn't necessarily connected to your computer. It can be connected to just to the Wi-Fi, or in my case, Ethernet cable, because I do a lot of data transfer to it. So I made sure it was wired.
Yeah, wired's good.
So,
you should emphasize that. Most people think Wi-Fi is the cat's meow, but wires work.
Wi-Fi is the cat's meow if you're trying to surf the web, if you're maybe doing a Zoom meeting, something like this. When you're trying to watch a 4K, when you've ripped a Blu-ray movie and you want to watch that Blu-ray movie at Blu-ray quality, you're not going to do that over the Wi-Fi. It's not happening. So, or listen to music, and have it sound really good, because I've got speakers on the other side of that wall that are almost as tall as I am. And if I so desire, it is not an effort to allow all the neighbors to enjoy the same music that I'm listening to. And if I want to do that, wired is the way to do it. Plus, like, all of the wired stuff sort of communicates across the wired network, and it frees up the Wi-Fi so that you can have a Zoom meeting, or so that you can do some, surf the web on your computer while you're checking your email, or somebody else is playing a game on their phone or whatever. It frees up some of that space on your Wi-Fi network as well. So that's a good one to do as well. And thank you for asking. It didn't even occur to me to stop and define NAS. Sometimes I get a little ahead of myself, so thank you for that. So the other thing, like I said, the other thing aside from backups is, have your hard drive for Time Machine or whatever, but also have something else that you can use for that. We talked about Carbon Copy Cloner earlier. We talked about Super Duper earlier, and making sure that those things, are current. Like, I've set calendar reminders to make sure I have a relatively recent Carbon Copy Cloner backup. Because if my Time Machine backup doesn't work, I don't want to be left high and dry. So I have alerts for those things, and those are like, just to make sure that I have those backups up to date. And it's just a bit level copy of my hard drive. Super Duper, Carbon Copy Cloner, those all sort of do the same thing, which is just sort of an exact duplicate of what you've got on the drive in the computer that you're using. So I like to make sure that those happen, and make sure you have that stuff kind of in more than one place. So I have Backblaze for my personal machine, for my personal computer, as an online backup. So like I said, if we go through the snap from the Marvel movies and my office ends up unmade, I don't want to have to reconstruct that from scratch, and I don't have to, because it'll take a long time, but Backblaze has it. If that were to happen and all of the other copies of the data that I have been obliterated, I know Backblaze still has it. So, and it's pretty easy to get, like one of those little drive docks, I think. You can get one that'll hold, the larger hard drives, the big ones. You can get one of those and you just pop it in there like a toaster, and you can put that in, make your backup, and then take that drive, put it back in its little pouch, take it over to somebody else's house, and it lives there. And then, you make plans to coordinate. We ended up with 2 hard drives that we use for this. So there's the one I just made the backup of, and then the next time we go over there, I just swap it out. So like, here's the backup for May, and then I make the backup for June on this one, and then, just do the switch there. So there's always one hard drive with a relatively recent copy of my data that lives somewhere that is not my house. Paranoid is a really strong word for this, but I used to do tech support for a hard drive company, and I'm here to tell you, there are days I don't feel like it's enough.
Yeah. Kelly?
Yes, before you ask me your question, I don't know how to pronounce PVO, so can you tell me your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Peter Van Overen, but Peter will work.
Oh, Peter. Okay.
Oh, here,
Hi,
I'll
Peter.
modify that. I was just going to say, one thing to emphasize about all this is Carbon Copy Cloner is an exact copy. And when you go to recover, for example, you load the OS on a machine and you go to recover, it's way quicker. I can recover like a terabyte in, I don't know, less than an hour maybe. And if you do it using Time Machine has to evaluate all the bazillion files and find the most recent one, and it can take hour after hour after hour. And I don't think, in other words, if you're in a hurry, most people wouldn't care, but if you're in a hurry and you want to recover your machine in a pretty timely way and get back online and get going, Carbon Copy Cloner is your friend, because you can recover at least 90 or 95% of your stuff and then do the incremental stuff probably using Time Machine, I would assume. I haven't done that. I usually just throw the Carbon Copy Cloner on it, and boom, you're back on the air and with the new hard drive or whatever. So
yeah,
I think
well, and
doing
Migration
both.
Assistant can do that with the with a Carbon Copy Cloner backup instead
Yes.
of having, and Migration Assistant is way more efficient when it thinks it's sort of a previous Mac that you're using, instead of using the Time Machine backup.
Yeah.
Because the Time Machine backup has to wade through all the logic of Time Machine, which is awesome for like super fast, transparent in the background backups and having them all the time. Oh, I deleted that file yesterday. Boop, 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 boop. I'm done. I've got it back. But generally, like with Migration Assistant, if you have a Carbon Copy or a Super Duper that you can use, that's absolutely the way to go. It is a lot faster.
I tell most people that the thing to do is use Carbon Copy Cloner or Super Duper to make an image copy and make at least one or two of those, and then also then use Time Machine. And I do it on a weekly basis, but it's like a belt and suspenders kind of thing. That way you have the best of both worlds. Anyway, I'm done. I yield.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I appreciate it, because that does make a difference. Yes, Eileen.
I have mine. I have multiple sets also. I have several external hard drives. One I back up daily, one I back up periodically. Both of those are in the house. But then I also have a set in the safe deposit box that if I'm going to leave on a trip for several weeks, I get it out of the safe deposit box. I bring it home, I back everything up, and it goes back in there. And because I like multiple hard drives, because they can fail. So if you don't have the,
and also those larger ones, everybody wants to buy an SSD now, the little flash storage sort of a thing. Everybody but those are really popular. Those are like the external drive everybody wants, because there's no moving parts. So if you throw it in your backpack, you're not going to have a head crash, and you're not going to lose all your data because of the moving pieces in the drive have all gotten gummed up. I told y'all I've seen some stuff. So everybody wants to buy those. So those big drives, you can get one of those that's like 8 terabytes, and it's not a lot of money. And they're very, very easy to come by, because like I said, the ones that people actually use are going to be your little solid staters. And so those big chunky hard drives that we used to put in the iMac G3 and that size of hard drive, those are the ones, and like my network attached storage device in here, that's what it takes. And so you can put an appalling amount of storage in one of those puppies. Yes, it is the drive that G Hansel is handing up right now. Yeah, you can buy just the drive piece of one of those for not a lot of money, and that's what you can pop in. I keep pointing behind me. There's one of those actual little toaster docks on the desk behind me. That's my husband's desk, and you just drop it in there and do what you need to do, and then you can take it somewhere else. Safe deposit box is a really good place for it. That kind of stuff, and so it makes it a nice. It makes it easy and really inexpensive to belt and suspender, or as belt and braces, as Charlotte would say on the overall Mac server. So that's another thing that you want to do, and also think about the stuff that the data that you're archiving, like that also needs to have a backup plan. That external hard drive that you leave everything on, like if it tips over tomorrow, how screwed are you? And like a lot of people don't think about that until it happens. And I did hard drive support back in, and when I did, there was a statistic that they told us, which was 25% of people back up and 50% of people will experience data loss. And if you're backing up, you're not experiencing data loss. So that's like almost everybody else. So those are not odds you generally want to play against. And everybody here has probably had a hard drive fail at some point, or you come in, you turn on your Mac, it makes the car crash noise, or the really pretty chimes that are the chimes of death, which means your computer is no more. You never know when that's just going to happen. And so it's just better to make sure you have a copy of that someplace else so you don't have to worry about it.
So I have a question.
Yes, Dwight.
this is about backup and your NAS. What software are you using to back up to your NAS?
I use Time Machine. I have a Time Machine backup over there.
Do you have problems with Time Machine backing up to your NAS?
I do not.
Corruption issues?
Mm-mm. But I'm also not, like, I did it all from my computer. I'm not letting the NAS operating system play the middleman in, oh, I can make that a Time Machine volume for you. I can make that a thing that you can back up to. Because your NAS will try to be really helpful. And I don't want my NAS to be smart. I want my NAS to be dumb. I sit here, you know, hard drive, hold files, ugh. That's all I want for it to do. I don't, it really wants to be more involved, and I don't let it. Like my Plex server runs on a mini, I'm pointing here because it's behind this computer, mounted behind this monitor, but I use the mini behind my computer for the Plex server. I stream music through the Apple TV. So I don't let the NAS be the server of any of that stuff or the purveyor of any of it. And if you just can sort of route around the stuff the NAS is trying to do for you, you'll be much better off.
And you've got it all wired instead of relying on Wi-Fi.
I do. Yeah, the NAS is all 100% Ethernet. My computer's on Wi-Fi, but the NAS is Ethernet both directions. Yeah.
Kelly, we
Yes.
had one CapMac member, former CapMac member, that did rigorous backups. He did an hourly backup, a daily backup, a weekly backup, and a monthly backup.
That's a lot of backups.
And these were each on separate drives, and they were daisy chained firewire from his computer. And then a lightning bolt hit his house, fried his computer and every one of the drives.
And every one of those drives. Yep.
Yeah, you got to have offsite.
Yep.
That's also
and that's
why
where that.
Yeah, when I back up daily, I disconnect it from the computer. So if you have the light
reason
tonight, then I don't.
Yeah, we have a little less lightning here, I think, than y'all do. But yeah, there's a reason that that kind of stuff happens. There's a reason, you know, it's nice to have a UPS or a power conditioner or a power strip or whatever it is that you use to sort of try and maintain that stuff. It's important. The
Kelly,
other thing I will, yes.
Just briefly, is your NAS, does it treat, is it a JBOD, just a bunch of disks, or is it a disk spanning NAS? If you follow me, there's a word for it. I can't remember. There's like class 1, class 5.
Yeah, it's using RAID, and I can never remember which number. Which number it is. Because it's my husband and I making the purchasing decisions. I have a tendency, my stance on most things tends to be go big or go home. And his is, you know, why should it be half an inch thick if I can make it an inch thick instead? You know, so he's Mr. like over engineer. So what's in there is like 16 terabyte enterprise level Iron Wolf drives or some ridiculous thing like that. But yeah, it's a pool of storage, and I don't remember which RAID stripe it is. I couldn't remember back in the day either. But yeah, it's a bunch of storage, and you can hot swap, you know, if you need to.
Okay, so if in other words, you'll get a diagnostic, it'll say one of the volumes failed, and you pop that volume out, and then it regenerates itself in the background.
Yeah, pop one out, put the new one in, and then like overnight. Basically,
right, yeah, exactly.
It recuperates. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it does that. And it's very nice actually in that respect. Like that piece is the piece it actually does well, which is just the disk management piece. Right. I let it do that. It can take care of all of that, and that's totally fine. But yeah, like I want to be your Plex server. No.
Yeah. Who made the box?
We have a QNAP.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
One of those. It was that or Synology, and both of their operating systems are equally obnoxious. And this one was a little bit cheaper when we were shopping for one, so this is what I picked up.
Super.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there that will do similar things. The two that are the most common right now are from QNAP and from Synology.
All right, how many slots does it have?
It has 4 slots and a spot for, I think it has a spot for an SSD, something like that.
Oh, okay. So. Sort of like a caching Like a
Yeah.
caching SCD kind of, okay, yeah,
Pretty
got it.
much. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like a cache,
Okay, yep,
like a little cache file over there.
yep.
Okay, so
Um,
everybody with
Yep.
me on hard drives and management
No, I
and
have a
time
question.
machine? Yes.
I have a question. Back in the day, when the only way we could back stuff up, other than, well, we didn't even have the cloud, was on CD disk. And
Yeah.
we were always warned that they had short lifespans.
They do.
And yeah, and you couldn't rely on them for long time stuff. So all these things that you're recommending, like whatever it is that you're taking over to your friend's house and bring it back, what's the lifespan on those, and can you trust them to last you a long time?
That's a very good question. And it's just hard drives, those big old hard drives I was telling you about. I just use those, and usually what happens is I will drop it in the dock, the little toaster I told you about, drop it in there, and then if there's a problem with it, your computer will tell you. Like when you connect it to your computer and your computer goes to mount that external drive, if it can't mount it, it will say so. If there's any problem, it'll go, hi, you need to run disk utility because y'all got a problem here. So I don't worry about it that much because I know that my computer will catch it if there's some sort of issue. If there's bad sectors, or if there's something going on with the partition map or something and it gets worked up, that's a solvable problem. I can either disk first aid it and clean it up, or looks like it's time, none of my machines is even a terabyte. So like a 1 terabyte drive will do my computer and the Mac behind me, easily, like bit level copy. So usually, like forever, we've been using like a 1 terabyte big old drive, split it in half, and it's got my computer on one and my husband's mini in the other. And that's a piece of cake. And then, when it quits working, when it starts throwing smart errors or things like that, it's pretty easy to make sure that we just replace it with the next one. So,
okay, thanks.
And I will tell you as a footnote to that there are now, I will not remember the name, but there are archive quality CDs and DVDs now, like DVD A or DVD archive, or the MDVD. There's this new format that you can burn a disc, and it's supposed to be valid data for like 100 years. So they're not cheap, but if you need to put something on a disc and you mean it, you can do that now. Yeah, I have a few. We were using them for photos, so that those family photos and things wouldn't get obliterated if something were to happen. So I have a few of those that I use, and just a regular DVD burner. You don't need anything special to burn them. They do just take a little longer because it's a slower process to burn those discs. So everybody good on overall personal data? I got a screen full of people I can't see, so I want to make sure I got everybody. All right.
Kelly, just another brief question. On your NAS, that just occurred to me. What OS, in other words, when you set it up and everything, do you write to it as a native, like APFS device, or is it a HFS volume? In other words, when you look at your RAID back there in the NAS, does it behave like a HFS volume, like a unified? In other words, like what is the file format that's actually the native format that you use on it? Have any idea?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I can access it across the network either as an SMB share, as an AFS share, or as a time machine volume, because it does have part of it that's partitioned for time machine. And that's a specific different sort of juju.
Right.
And I will not bore people with the details of that. It's different and it's important. So that's why when you get a new drive and you want to use it for time machine, you plug it in and it goes, do you want this to be a time machine volume? And then like, like the kids in the Charlie Brown special, your computer waves its hands for a minute and now it's time machine and that's it. So you can do that. So I've chunked off part of the NAS as time machine, and it backs up both computers, and that's the local time machine backup for those.
So that's a partition.
Yes, that's a partition.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that I've carved out of. Yeah, I carved that out of the regular storage pool, and then the others are
APFS probably.
I don't think they're. I don't think they are because I I have a Windows machine on the network too.
Oh,
It is missing.
well, we're off in the weeds now. That's good. I
It's
can
my
look at.
secret shame.
I'll look.
But
I'll
yeah,
go to
there's a lot of-
QNAP and I'll just go and figure it out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways it can be formatted so it's accessed by whatever you want. So
Sure. Great.
There's different. I think.
By the way, I just
extra
want to
added.
mention that Craig has been
Yes, Susan.
putting details and translating acronyms in the chat window. If anyone, like me, likes to know what acronyms stand for. So thanks, Craig.
Yes. AFS is Apple File System, so that if something like if it was a native, when you buy a drive for Mac, that's usually like an Apple File System. That's usually how that's formatted, so that it looks just like any hard drive that would have Mac OS on it. APFS is the new iteration of AFS. And then SMB is small machine block. I don't remember. It's been a really long time since anybody asked what it stood for, but it's a networking protocol. And it's Samba, and you used to have to use it to communicate to printers and other sorts of things across the network. When you had to go through a lot more gyrations to communicate with other devices on your network, SMB was one of the things that you had to know about. So I know a lot more about it than I wish to, and because I used to have to troubleshoot it a lot. I became a network admin because all the stuff in my house was Windows and I had a Mac, and I had to figure out how I could use anything else that was in my house. So anyway, yeah, you can check out what you can do with the QNAP devices. They're pretty straightforward for the most part when it comes to like setup and config, like basic. Getting it set up and running and plugged in and all on top of the network and everything. The rest of it's a different story, but that piece is pretty straightforward. The other thing a bunch of other things that you want to look at are other personal data, and a lot of times people don't think about it so much because it's just sort of there. So one of those things is contacts. Depending on when you got your first iPhone, you probably had some sort of cell phone before that. Maybe it flipped open, maybe it didn't. But you had a bunch of people's names that you had painstakingly tried and probably failed to enter in correctly, so that you had everybody's phone numbers in there, and you couldn't save a bunch of numbers under one person's name, so you'd have to have Kelly Home, Kelly Cell, Kelly Work, and on and on and on. And so a lot of times what happens is that stuff, when you get it all moved over to your phone, it just kind of stays that way, and it doesn't have to. So there's times when it's good to just sort of sit down and clean out all that stuff, whether it's fix the misspelling of someone's name. Somebody got married, and so their name has changed. Somebody got divorced, and their name has changed. Just sort of general updates. And the bonus to this is that there's a lot of additional information you can put in your contacts for a lot of stuff. You can put in birthdays, you can put in Twitter, you can put in all those email addresses. If I'm in your phone, you can put in all those email addresses, Twitter, all of that. Yes, Ginger.
I was going to say another one of those house cleaning things is to go when you're in mail, go to previous recipients and remove all those email addresses that people say, I have a new address, so take it out. So when you're writing a message, it doesn't offer up the old stuff and keep propagating bad communication links.
Yeah, so the easiest way to manage your contacts is through iCloud.com. You can open a web browser on your computer. You can use all of the acreage available to you on your Mac. External monitor, or if you have a laptop with a nice big screen, whatever. It's a lot easier to use your full keyboard and your full keyboard to do the typing and the corrections and the updates than it is to try and do some of that stuff on your phone or on your iPad. So if you go to iCloud.com and log in a web browser, it will allow you to sign in and view your contacts. And the bonus of this is that you're updating the version that Apple has stored on their servers. And so that means that new version is going to propagate to everything else. So you don't have to worry about how long is it going to take before this syncs to my iPad or before this syncs to my phone or whatever. When you do it through iCloud.com, you're editing the server copy. So then the next sync, anything makes, that's when those things get updated. Because the actual mechanics of iCloud Sync are sort of a dark art. Nobody's really sure how long any of those things take or how often they happen. So if you ask Apple for assistance with this sort of thing, a lot of times the answer you're going to get is turn it all off and wait 20 minutes and then turn on one and then wait another 20 minutes and then turn on the next one and wait another 20 minutes and see where it all comes apart. Like, it's a crapshoot, I'm telling you. Like, and that's from Apple. That's Apple's like official iCloud troubleshooting. So it's a big mystery. So so that's the other nice thing about doing this on the server. Like, if you do it once, like, you know that this is like the canonical version, the actual version of your contacts is the one that you're messing with. And you don't have to do it all at once either. Like, if you're like a lot of people, you've accumulated folks in here over the years, you've got folks like, who even is that? That person moved away. Even if I still talk to this person, I know that's not their phone number anymore. I do not still talk to this person anymore. So what I like to do, and I do this about once a year, is sit down, or, you entered someone in your contacts real quick. In the olden days when we all went places, I met a lot of people and I would toss them in my contacts real quick, so-and-so from WWDC, somebody that I met at Macstock, or somebody that I met at Macworld, and like, some sort of cryptic notes about like where it was I spoke with this person. And maybe I haven't talked to that person anymore, or maybe that person and I are now very good friends and I should put in like their actual name and not just from Macworld as their last name or whatever. So I go through about once a year and update these. And what I like to do is take a letter at a time. So you don't have to update everybody at once, but sit down and like, sit down on the porch when the weather's nice, get yourself a beverage. I'm just doing A. Just do A and clean up everybody in A, and it's done. And then like A is locked down. A is under control. And then like, well, there's not that many in B, so I'll just knock that out while I'm here. And there's only 27 of them, because there's some that, like, if it starts with a number, there's like the number section at the very, very bottom. So if you have like businesses and stuff in there, you can make those. It took me a lot longer to get to cleaning up my contacts than it should have. So I had like a lot of local businesses from where I lived before. And so like they weren't my neighborhood places anymore. So I had to go like, first of all, I had to get new neighborhood places. And then I had to go make sure I had everything updated in my phone. And part of the reason you want to do this is because your contacts are super important to the rest of the stuff that you do on your phone. When you want to send an email to somebody, that email address will come up faster if it's something that's saved in your contacts. If you, a while from now, when we all leave the house again on a regular basis, if you want to go to somebody's house, you can type a person's name in Maps and it will come up with their address, and you can tap on it for the directions to their house and make sure you're getting there the most efficient way.
That's a cool tip. Thank you.
Oh yeah. In fact, I used that last weekend. I went and visited my mom for Mother's Day, and that was how I made sure I was that I wasn't going to crash into construction or something like between my house and her house. Was I just typed, like, because I have her in my contacts as my mom, I just type mom in Maps and it gives me her address, and I was able to scan like the whole 200 miles and go like, oh, okay, well, there's construction right there, so I need to make sure I leave a little sooner so that I get there when I plan to. So that kind of stuff is helpful. So
you can also use it when you do a Lyft rides, yes, or Uber rides or whatever, which is great.
Yeah, ride sharing also, it makes it very easy to find that address if you're just taking a Lyft to somebody's house, or if you store. I've heard tell of this Mexican restaurant y'all like to hang out at, and if you have that Mexican restaurant in your contacts, you can make it very easy to share that address, with an Uber or a Lyft. You can make it very easy to get your own driving instructions there, all that kind of stuff. If you want to text somebody, making sure that you have their phone number saved in contacts correctly, you can just type their name and the saved phone number will come up first for that person. So all kinds of stuff that you can do on your phone is made better if your contacts are cleaned up. That's the other reason that you want to make sure you do it. Because of all the other things that you can do with contacts, like you can tell the lady to text your daughter, whatever the thing. You can tell it, text Dwight, I really like your Zoom background. Can you tell me where that's from? And then and she'll just handle that for you. If it's your phone, if it's your watch, whatever. She'll just, like, you can have your HomePod, you can have the S lady take care of that for you. And the way that works is if your contact data is solid. And and the side benefit is, like, if you have anniversaries in there, making sure they're accurate. If you have birthdays in there, making sure they're accurate. Because one of the things that she will do now, the S lady, is, so for people who don't know, S lady is short for the name of the assistant in your phone. And I do a lot of podcasts, and I don't want to set that off for people. So I don't say her name. So I will talk to you a lot about the S lady and occasionally about the A lady, which is like the S lady, but comes from Amazon, because I don't want to say her name either, because I don't want people to be mad at me. So you can tell, so one of the things that will happen is the S lady will give you a suggestion on your phone in the middle of November that you should text Kelly because it's her birthday. And like, it will just handle that for you. So you can tell it, okay, yeah, I want to do that. And then you can use all the cool iMessage effects to send people, balloons and stuff for their birthdays. And it's great. So that there's a lot of stuff that you can leverage out of contacts, but it only works if your contact data is good, is what that comes back to. So contacts is a really, really good place to look. Messages is another one where you can end up with a lot of data in there very quickly and not very intentionally, particularly if you're somebody like me who doesn't go in and delete message threads on the regular or delete attachments on the regular. If you go into settings about storage on your iOS device right now, and it doesn't matter which one, if you go into settings about storage, manage storage, it will show you the big green bar of messages that's like half your space. And then it will show you all the other stuff that is your space, because all those pictures of your kids and your grandkids and nieces and nephews and all of your family people, and the cute cat video your friend sent you, and the other cat video, and the other cat video, and then the dog video, because I've sent you too many cat videos already. I may have said too much. All of those are stored on your device, and they take up space on your device. So, it's great that you got that video of whoever it was that opened your present, because the S lady told you it was a birthday and you managed to get a gift off to somebody in time. And they've opened that present and you've got video of the entire experience, and that's super exciting, but it's also taking up like a couple 100 megabytes in messages. So if you want to save it, you can save those things off using all of the awesome data storage tips you got from me at the beginning. But you can save that stuff, and then it doesn't have to be on your phone anymore. And it's easier to just sort of make a conscious decision, like, this video is really cute, I want to keep it. This one is I'm very sentimental about this person, and I want to store this video on my phone. But you can make sure that the other ones that are nice to have, because I have a little folder for all of like the Christmas videos from the Christmas nobody got to hang out anymore. Like, you can save all that stuff and archive it and have a good place where all those things live and preserve them, but you don't have to carry them around in your pocket. And part of this just goes back to the data archive I was talking about before. Like, you can have a lot of files, but those files don't all 100% rate staking out acreage on your internal hard drive on your computer. They just don't. So messages is another place that you can look for things to, and one thing you can do, we all have that friend, we all have that, maybe it's a family member, but we all have that person who's in messages, who, if you go in, and I want to make sure I show you exactly where this is. So if you go into messages and you tap on a person, like at their name at the top, or their little icon for them at the top, then it'll pop down a little bar that'll say, like, if this is an iMessage person, so it'll say audio, because you can tap it and call them. FaceTime, you can tap it and FaceTime them, or it'll say info. And if you tap on info, it will show you If you scroll down, it will show you all of the attachments and things and stuff that you have shared with that person. So here's a friend of mine. We've shared a bunch of Star Wars pictures. I'm sure that will shock some of you. And a bunch of links back and forth that we've kicked back and forth of different stuff. And I can ditch all that stuff that I don't want to keep anymore. And that makes it very easy to do. So we all have that friend who sends us, you know, that adorable TikTok video every morning when we get up, you know, or whatever it is. And those are accumulating and they're taking up space, and you can clear those things out. Everybody with me so far? Everybody looking at their messages at that person? Okay, so here's what you can do. Here's how you clear that up. So if you're in messages and you're in info, when you go to photos, like for example, if you go to photos, you have the option for see all. And if you go to see all, it will show you all the pictures that are in there. And so you'll have like a bunch of images of stuff. You know, here's Kelly in a mask. And then you can hit select. And when you tap select, you can choose any of those images you want, or all of them. And let's see if I can do this on camera. If you pick one and then sort of drag, I think it may not work in this view. I don't think it works in this view. In other views, you can drag your finger across and it'll select a whole bunch of them at once. But once you select them, you have the option to save them or delete them. So this is where you go in and you can manage all of those things. So you can save the cute videos that you want to save. They'll be saved in your photo roll. And that's a whole separate mug talk about how to preserve your photos and archive your photos and keep stuff that's on your photo roll. We'll talk about that another time, if y'all have me back. I don't know if you will, but if you do, we can talk about it then. So you can tap and select all of the pictures and stuff that you want to save, and then you can tap on the rest of them and choose delete at the bottom and get rid of all of them. And now Peter has a question. Oh, you don't?
Not actually. I agree with you.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just been a while, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure you're still with me.
Yeah.
Because you weren't asking questions, she thought you drifted off.
I just wanted to make sure you were okay. You didn't get trapped under something heavy.
No, I looked up SMB, and it's what is darn it, I had it right here. Server message block.
Block. So. Okay, block was right. Message block was right. Okay. Yeah.
Following up on what you just said about messages, you can go in and put a setting either on your iOS device or your Mac and say, limit how long to keep messages. The default is to keep them forever, but you have the choice of saying keep them for 1 year or for 30 days, and everything else gets deleted.
Yeah. So if you don't care for the most part, and you're going to be good about saving out the ones you want, you can just set it to make sure and delete that stuff for you automatically. Yeah, that's the bonus tip to that one. So there you go. That's another cleaning one, because it does help clear that stuff out, but it gives you the bonus of not having to delete the entire message thread and be able to continue the history with that person, which is sometimes useful.
So I was just trying,
yes, Ginger,
in my messages, you know, I send people photos, and that still takes up room, I guess, on mine, or is there a pointer? I mean, if I send a message that's in my photos, does it make another copy, or is it just a pointer to my photos? Like, do I need to go in and delete what I sent other people?
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to, and it's not going away. I don't know what happened.
Well, it might be because you haven't deleted it. If you delete it from the thread, I think then it becomes the alias sort of to your camera roll.
I thought that was a good question.
Yes. And I think that's why.
Yep, it worked the second time. I must not have hit the right button.
Yeah, you do have to tap on those with a certain amount of sincerity, or it won't let you. That is
and by the way, I tried to map, you know, going to someone's house by going to Google Maps. Didn't work so well, but because I don't have all my contacts in Google, who would? They're just going to spy on you. But Apple Maps, you know, I typed someone's name in, it didn't work. And then I went and looked at my address book, and I never put their address in.
There it is.
But one thing I was wondering, on
Uh-huh.
messages on your computer, if it's an Apple thing, you can actually type using a real keyboard and communicate with somebody text message wise.
Mhm.
But there are some people that don't have Apple phones, and it's like I can't seem to use my keyboard to communicate with them from my computer. It's almost like I have to do it boom, 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 boom on my phone. And how do you let contacts know that somebody has an iPhone? I mean, if you just put mobile phone, it doesn't
Mhm.
seem to know that you should be able to talk to them using messages on your computer. This is a confusion
So-
I have.
There's a lot of stuff in that question.
Yeah.
So let me take the first part first. The first part of that was what my friends call the green bubble people. Because when you text with them on your phone, those bubbles are green, they're not blue.
Mhm.
Green bubbles are text messages. And as I had to explain to people in the olden days who didn't understand back before everybody had unlimited texting, green bubbles are green because they cost you money. You are being charged for the green bubble. I don't know if that's why they were green, but that was the thing I had to keep impressing on people who were like my father-in-law, who would go, "Why is my cell phone bill so high?" And I'd be like, "Well, look at all these text messages." "Well, what about, why are they?" "Well, because they're green. Like, you didn't buy 500 texts a month or whatever it was, at the time that they were giving people. You didn't buy a text package. You have to pay for every one of them. So yeah, all those people in there that are green, they're costing you because they're not blue messages, because the blue messages go over Apple's network and they're free. So you can set up your phone and your computer so that you can receive those text messages, not iMessage messages, but text messages, the green bubbles. You can receive the green bubbles on your Mac. You have to go in and set it up, and I'm gonna type on this secret other thing over here that y'all can't see, because it's called text message forwarding. And what you do is on your phone, you have to go to wait. Okay, make sure you're using the same Apple ID in both places. That's thing one. So if you're getting iMessage in both places, you're probably solid. So what you have to do is go on your phone, and I'll say it real slow so everybody can do this now if they want to. Pick up your phone, go to the settings app, and then go to messages. And it's part of the way down. I'm going to do it so I can see where it's at. In the settings app, you go to messages. It's quite a ways down. So it's past Apple Pay, like App Store and Apple Pay. And in the next block after that, you'll see phone, messages, and FaceTime, 3 green icons all together. And you tap on messages. Everybody with me? Okay. Nobody said anything. So in messages, there's an option that says text message forwarding, partway down the screen. And you can see how many devices that is. And if it doesn't show any, you can tap on it, and then it'll show you which devices you have set to send and receive text messages on. That's what this one's for. Hi, I'm Kelly, and I name all my stuff after Star Wars robots. I just realized I'm showing everybody a list of, that's what those are. Star Wars robots. That's all my gear. So that's how you can set that up. You will need to make sure there's a dumb thing. Let me see if I can remember what it is. You have to have network services set up to let things see your location in order for that to be a thing that you can turn on. So that will work. But that's how you do it. And then once you do that, then anyone who sends you a text message, you'll get it on your computer just like you get the blue bubbles from everybody else.
So it has nothing to do with whether you put it in context saying it was an iPhone.
No, because it can say mobile.
Yeah.
It can say mobile. And if it says mobile, when you first go to send a message to somebody, I don't know what the negotiation protocol or anything is, but your phone basically checks, like, is that an iPhone on the other end? and then it'll send a blue message if it is.
So mine
And that
is,
person doesn't have to be in your contacts or anything.
so mine's saying I need to enter the code shown on my Mac to allow iPhone text messages to be sent and received, but I don't see it on my Mac. What code? This is,
If you put the phone number on your Mac, I mean, on your contacts, and you say it's an iPhone,
Mhm.
does it wind up just giving you the FaceTime option, or does that come out because it already knows it's an iPhone?
Your phone will check before it gives you the FaceTime option.
So it
So you
doesn't
can
really
say,
matter.
yeah, you can say everybody is a mobile phone, whether it's a Samsung phone or an iPhone or whatever.
Mhm.
You can just say everything is mobile and it won't care. I started out I created a custom label for iPhone before it mattered. And I would just put that on them because initially here in Portland, those were people who could receive MMS or text, pictures and things to people. And people I knew with Android devices could not receive those. And so I would always make sure to put iPhone on the ones that were people I could send pictures to. From my iPhone 3G or whatever it was.
Kelly, I've got halfway
Ginger.
into trying to do this, and it says
Okay.
text message forwarding. Enter the code shown on your Mac to allow iPhone text messages to also be sent and received on our Mac Mini. But I don't know what code to put in there. It's not my Apple ID, I don't guess.
No,
No, but
it's a code sent to you, and it's probably in a window underneath your Zoom window.
No
Yep.
way. Huh.
I was gonna say if you minimize your Zoom window, I'll bet it's underneath.
Oh, golly good. You guys are great. Okay.
That's my first move every time is because it's under stuff. It will make
Yeah.
it happen, but it's always under stuff. But then your computer and your phone will negotiate, and then you'll be able to send those pictures, or you'll be able to send those messages and see them on your computer, just like you could if they were iMessage messages as well. So everybody else sorted out that was following along there?
This is pretty cool, although now it wants
I can
another.
actually say playing along at home. So
Yes. But this is better than when we were all in that Mexican restaurant, because we would swamp their Wi-Fi network so quickly we could never do everything together. So it's a benefit of doing this virtually, let me tell you.
Yeah. We used to take down cell towers here with nerd events when the network was a little more fragile. You get a whole bunch of people all in one place tweeting about whatever the thing was we were all doing, and then there would be no network connectivity anymore.
You can imagine what it was like here during Austin city limits.
I can imagine
specifically
what it's
South
like
by
there. A lot of,
Southwest.
I was gonna say,
Or
yeah.
UT football games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, South by is where I imagine you've got an abundance of nerds who are all, back in the day, the free world is in Austin whipping out their cell phones, talking about whatever just happened. So yeah.
One year they just paid homeless people to walk around and be hotspots, because they're roaming the streets anyway.
Doesn't surprise me in the least. So contacts and messages in the media, and setting up your text messages so that you've kind of got everything everywhere. Like that's also a very convenient thing. It's not really, that one's not really a cleaning tip, but it's definitely a tip that will make everything else easier. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of places will send you an SMS for enter this code into the thing that you're trying to log into. And now you can get those on your Mac as well. And it will work the same way on your Mac as it does on your phone. If you've gotten them lately with, I think iOS 13, they'll send you the code. And if you're on the website, it'll say from messages, 6 digits or whatever, and just let you fill it in. That also works on Mac OS. So if you set up for text message forwarding to work on your Mac, you can do the same thing with that code on Mac OS. When it pops up, it'll say from messages, and you can just tap on it to fill it into the website, just like you can on your phone.
So I'm trying to, I set up my Mac and my phone, it appears, but my iPad, it's not, I forgot the code and the code's gone away. But could that be because my iPad is asleep somewhere? It's not really open?
It's probably, well, setting up your iPad is a separate process. It'll be the same thing where you have to go in and turn it on. And
But I mean,
so you'll need to
it's
have it in your
offering,
hand to do it.
the phone's offering me this thing, but I bet it's because my iPad is like closed. It's not communicating.
It'll need to be unlocked for that. I
Yeah.
think it'll need to be unlocked for that negotiation between your phone and your iPad to work.
And I should make sure the iOSs match, like you said,
Yeah.
but they're all up
that'll
to
help
date.
too.
This is really
Yeah.
helpful. I mean, it's not just, doing cleanup, but also some cool things that have just been annoying. Why doesn't this work? Why do I have to
Yes.
go this one person and boop, 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 boop on the phone,
Yeah. So I have 3 left and they're going to be really quick. So one of them is your downloads folder. I do not judge. And if you could see my downloads folder, you would see why. So look in your downloads folder, open it up and sort it by date, click on the date column, but then click it again so that the oldest stuff is at the top and take a good look. I can't tell you what to get rid of. I can't tell you if you need to get rid of anything in there, but take a good look and see what's in there because a lot of people don't hang out in the downloads folder. It's a means to an end. I downloaded the thing, now I've opened the thing and I'm moving on with my life, but it's still sitting there in the downloads folder and you may not need it. You may not need the 19 versions of Zoom that are all sitting in there now because every time you join a Zoom meeting, it downloads a new copy or whatever. You may not need, this happens to me regularly. Like I clicked on something to download, but it doesn't seem like it actually downloaded. So I click on it again to download it. And now I've got 2.
Mhm.
Downloading the multiples is another good one. So start with like oldest. I also like to sort by name because if you have a bunch of Zoom, it'll show Zoom, Zoom 2, Zoom 3, Zoom 4, Zoom 5, and you can, nuke all of them at once, even if they were different dates. So I like to make a quick pass by name so that the duplicate stuff is easy to knock out, and then flip it and sort it by date and see like, do I really need that GIF from 2016 on my computer still? Because the answer might be yes, but it also might be no. I mean, depends on the GIF, right?
So where are you talking about your download folder on the phone or on the computer?
On your computer.
Okay.
And it's one of the options. If you're in the Finder and you click on the Go menu, one of the options is downloads.
Okay.
And it'll take you straight there. And then you can just look in there and see what you see. It may be a horror show. It may be sleek and sophisticated and minimalist like an Apple store. Difficult to say. In real life, most of them are very much more dollar store on Black Friday kind of horror show. So again, I recommend a fortifying adult beverage before you wade in to do battle with your downloads folder because you might need it. But that's definitely a place to look. You will find a huge amount of space a lot of times just wading through the downloads folder and getting rid of things you don't need. And it's also a good opportunity to sort of sort things out. Like I've been running that app from the downloads folder, but I need to put it in applications and just move it over there and finally put it where it should be, that kind of stuff. Another one that you can use is About This Mac. If you go to About This Mac, it's a lot more useful now if you're on a recent operating system. Peter, was it you was on Mojave? Because this still works for you. If you click on About This Mac and it pops up your window and it says Mac OS, whatever, you can click on storage. And if you click on storage, it'll show you your hard drive, just like manage storage on iOS does. But if you click on manage, it'll give you this little program that opens up out of this other little piece of system information. And it'll show you, like, here's where all the stuff is living on your computer. And it's a very high level, very, very basic way to do this. But for example, lots of people are making records with their Macs and recording music, but a lot of people are not. And if you are not, you probably don't need 2 or 3 gigabytes of GarageBand instruments that's installed on your system. So you can get rid of that. And bam, 3 gigabytes, easy, that you just recovered off your machine. There's like Apple TV. Like if you're watching TV on your computer, that's awesome. but you're downloading each of those files, and maybe you want to keep all those episodes of the first season of Ted Lasso on your computer. And if you do, good for you. I wholeheartedly support that. It's a wonderful show. However, you may not want to keep them there because maybe you watch them on the Apple TV instead, right? Or you like to watch them on your iPad instead and happen to watch a couple on your computer. You can go optimize that storage and get rid of that stuff. So it'll show you a lot of things in there that are things that maybe you can get rid of. Like if you click on applications and you have made the leap from Mojave up to Catalina or Big Sur, it'll show you which of those apps are 32-bit that need to be replaced. It'll show you, if you're on an M1 machine, it'll show you which ones are Universal and which ones are Intel, because maybe you need to just go download a new version of Chrome or whatever it is, you know, to make sure that you've got the native one for the hardware that you have. So there's a lot of places in there you can look for stuff and find space to recover.
That's the thing. I was just looking around in here. I have a thing that dates back to 2006, believe it or not, and it still works. It's called Disk Inventory X, and I suspect there's probably several utilities like this, and it's a graphical representation that goes and looks at all the junk on your hard drive or your SSD in this case, and it creates a visual image. And as you move your cursor around, you can look for the big blobs, and it will tell you what these blobs are. And so I found that to be invaluable because you'll say, what on earth is that? Why does it take up all this space? And it turns out, oh, it's like this old garbage from 2006 or something, right? And it's really a huge help. And the other thing too, it's like trying to get this kind of information from GetInfo or something is really tedious, and using a utility like this, it makes it graphical, and you can very quickly go, oh, then you know where to go to work.
Daisy Disk is another one that does that. That's a newer. I know it's newer because it runs on my machine. Daisy Disk.
DAISY.
Yes, Daisy Disk. And it's circular, so it's sort of like, and then the different colors are different sizes of things. That's one. My favorite is Omni Disk Sweeper, which has basically no pretty interface. It's literally like column view of your computer, and it sorts each of your folders by size, and then you click on it and it shows you the biggest things in there. You click on one of those, it shows you the biggest things in there, and you just work your way down to whatever it is. And that one's free from Omni Group. Yes,
Omni Disk what?
Sweeper.
Yeah.
Sweeper.
So I have a question. I'm very bad at processing my emails. And so I end up with gajillions.
That's not a question, that's a universal truth.
Okay. So here's the question. If, you know, and I keep thinking, well, I go through and I'll get rid of this and, you know, I'll go through all the, get rid of the junk. But sometimes at the beginning of a year or a quarter, I just take everything from certain date and put it in a folder called archive off on the side. Have I done anything as far as removing it, or have I just, you know, it's still a big blob.
Yeah.
But it's not in my inbox, which I think if you get too much crap in your inbox, it might explode.
But it is in your mail, and it's taking up space, and it's another item to be indexed as you search. So if you're looking for all the mail you have from Koki, you will find all of that, even if it was stuff that maybe could be deleted. Or I'm sure everything Koki sends you is vitally important. But
well, but if she just says, I'll be at the meeting, I could delete that, right?
Right, like see
the meeting happened.
On my way, whatever. Like some of those sort of incidental ones. Like if you're just archiving all of that, that means that that's more stuff that Spotlight has to index. It's more things for mail to have to search through. It's additional entries in the mail index that your computer's using for how to leverage all that stuff. It's more for Spotlight to have to worry about, so that when you use the Spotlight search, if you're looking for email, you're just sort of giving it more to look at and more to have to work with at a time. So anything you can do to sort of narrow that data set is always going to be a good idea.
So it makes me feel better because my inbox looks smaller, but I'm not getting any space back. So I need to just get better on a regular basis, like when I'm on hold somewhere, and just ching, ching, ching.
Yeah, and I'll give you the, I'm gonna let Craig and Peter ask in a minute, but the thing I want to tell you that I use all the time to help clean this stuff out is I will sort it by sender. Like I will look at my inbox and sort by sender. So like a lot of stuff, like, because that puts like all your newsletters together, all the coupons from whoever, all in the one place. And so like all these coupons are expired. Click one, hold shift, click the other one, hit delete. There's a bunch gone. Here's, you know, the newsletter that I get every day that maybe I didn't read this week, and, you know, click on one, hold down shift, click on the bottom one, ditch them all. They, you know, they all get selected when you hold down shift and click like that. You can select a bunch at a time and then ditch them.
Yeah.
So,
But you've
Craig,
got to
you've been
empty the trash. Just putting them in the trash doesn't give you your space back.
Right. Empty the trash. Well, empty the trash. And if you're talking about like a 4 or 5 digit number of messages, you'll want to restart at the end of that to make sure that those things are done. Because that'll take it all out of temp files and stuff too. That's really helpful. So Craig, you've been so patient. I'm giving you cuts in front of Peter because Peter's asked a bunch of questions.
Well, the two things, one on gingers. One thing that I find help in doing mail management, I actually am having to redo all mine because I have to do a reinstall of Big Sur, but there's a plugin for mail called Mail Tags that lets you help categorize your mail messages into certain types. So you can have a category tag for all the newsletters you get, for all of the CapMac mail you get, for all of the correspondence you get from a certain group that you're a member of. And that way it helps keep it sorted so you can group it more easily.
Because they won't all have, it's not like work where everyone has the same email extension.
Right. Yeah. And well, and that's the thing. You can make rules based on the extension. You can make it based on the username. You can add a whole list of these specific people just based on their email address.
I get advertising or coupon or shopping newsletters, right, from these 5 addresses. Okay. And so so if I get anything from any of these 5 addresses, all of them get shopping as a tag. And then you can go in and I pink puffy heart mail tags. It's one of my favorite things. So you could use mail tags and then, you know, shopping. And then you can see all your shopping emails, and then you can just, you know, nuke them all from lower Thorbit.
And that's from a company called Small Cube.
Small Cube. So basically anything that comes in will get that tag if you've set it up.
Right. You just set the rules up to set certain tags, and it also, you can have it automatically add certain keywords that are separate from the actual project category that it's put in. And then circling back to keeping your downloads folder organized so you can more easily filter it. I have a little plugin called Hazel that you can use and set rules that like all the DMGs will go into one subfolder of downloads, and all the image files will go into a different one. And that way you can help keep it segmented out and more easily see things and find things.
Nice library, Craig.
One
behind you.
Here's a sort of vaguely related sort of data question. It has to do with the wretched photo folder. Somebody who remain unnamed has lots and lots of duplicate folders. In other words, you look at the file descriptor and it's IMG underscore some 4-digit number, and they roll over. Now the trick is these things, due to the way the data was collected out of the phone back in the bad old days, you'll have duplicates all over the place. Have you found a utility that will help you identify the dupes? Now, sometimes because it's only a 4-digit number, it goes from 0 to 9999 and it rolls over. So you don't want to just trash them arbitrarily.
My photo roll several times over.
Sweeper.
So
Peter,
yeah,
there's an app called Photosweeper that you can add your library, add the photos in your library to this, and it will actually search based upon the actual image itself. That it will try to find things that it thinks are duplicate photos. That it's not relying on the name; it's actually relying on the pixel data.
It's using the content of the image file itself, and it's not analyzing it for like all these pictures are pictures of Dwight or all these pictures are pictures of Ginger. And I apologize to both of you for being on the first screen because you make good examples because you're clearly labeled. But that's what it's doing. It's not using, you know, face recognition like Photos does. You can do some of this in Photos like in a very lightweight way, I will say. Something like Photosweeper is going to be another good way to do it. If you're looking for not just photos but general duplicate files, there's an app called Gemini that you can use that will find duplicate files that you can get rid of as well. That's MacPaw, I think is who makes that
Yeah,
one.
that sounds right.
And it looks for duplicate files. So if you've got 19 copies of the one presentation that you gave at CapMac or something, it will give you that up. It will give you that. You know, it'll show them all to you and you can choose them.
Craig,
the other thing
who
about
made
photos,
who makes Photosweeper?
you can find it in the App Store.
Okay.
It's on, that's where I got it. And the
Okay.
nice thing about it is it also, suppose you accidentally are taking photos with your phone and you hold down the button a little too long, and the pictures are not exactly all the same because there's moving action, but you take a burst of say 30 photos. It can find all those that are basically the same, and you can actually set a time limit of photos taken within a certain time frame and select them. And it has a nice, easy interface to just throw them away.
It does something really well that I think more apps need to take notice of, and that's it's very clear about like, here's what I'm showing you, here's the ones I think are the same, and then it's very clear about, so are these the ones you want to get rid of? It's very like upfront, and you always have a good idea of what it is that's happening. And not every app is that way. Not every app gives you a clear idea of like, I did this, I did this, I did this, and this is going to be the outcome. And Photosweeper is one that does. And so that's one thing that I appreciate about it. I look at a lot of software, and that's one that stands out to me, and that's why. Because it's
I just
very
want
obvious.
to thank you for all the great tips, and also for the motivation that you can actually get on top of all this stuff. It's not the end of the world. There are tools to help.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of computers, right, is to be managing that stuff for you, right? Like, I have this so that I don't, to take care of that thing for me, to do this thing for me, to manage that thing for me. And so, like, having the opportunity to let it manage some of that for you, like, I know it feels weird, and like, I had a really hard time just sort of outsourcing phone numbers from my brain to my phone. But I mean, it was hard, like, but now, like, I don't know a whole lot of phone numbers. I know a few, but I don't know like all of them because I don't have to carry them around anymore. So now I have all that extra space for like Doctor Who and Marvel movies and all the other stuff I like instead.
I could not tell you my own parents' phone number right now, but I can tell you my home phone number from when I was 5 years old.
So can I. Absolutely.
You know,
so I want.
if,
Let
I
me
was
give
just
one
gonna.
last tip, and then
Go
we'll
ahead.
jump in. And it's passwords. I have available at the drop of a hat a talk about passwords, what they are, what password managers are, why you should care, why it matters to you, all the reasons those things are important. You can listen to most of it on today's Daily Observations podcast, as a matter of fact, because we talked about the nuts and bolts of what they are and how they work and why it's better to outsource that part of your brain. But the thing to know is that there are data breaches all the time, and there are people always trying to get at your data. And so every once in a while, going through and dusting off the dark corners of your password manager is a really good idea. Whether it's a matter of, I need to delete this account entirely, or I need to update this password to something better, or this is such an old password and I don't use it much, and it's from when I had like 3 different things I used as my password, and I really need to change it to something a little better, and making sure that those things are up to date, using the 2-factor option where the 2-factor option is available to you, and getting those things updated. Because remember, you don't have to know what those passwords are. If you're using a password manager, you can change every single one of them to something different and new, and it won't matter. And that's another one like contact, where there's a lot of sort of mental work involved in it. Like, who is this person? Do I still care about whether or not I have their phone number? Am I ever going to text them again? Is the address right? Do I have their birthday? Like, that's all stuff that's sort of mental processing on you. It doesn't take a long time, but there's no way your computer's going to know any of that stuff. And passwords are the same. How often do you use that account? It'll show you like the last time you changed the password. Also, most password managers will. Most password managers will also let you search. So if you have that, you know, that stretch of time in the early aughts when you thought you were terribly clever and you were using your cat's name but backwards as your default password everywhere, you can search that, and your password manager will show you all the places that you still have that password and help you get them updated. And the tip I would give you is to have your password manager use memorable passwords, because if there's ever a point where you end up having to type it by hand, then it'll be something that you can parse. It'll be a few words, maybe there's dashes in between them or whatever, and then you can update those.
Kelly,
And yes,
I use a keychain and for my handling my passwords, and I go in there when I have to look for a password to find out what it is, and I find so many things I have absolutely no clue what they're for, and I know I can't delete them because some of those things are system files that need the passwords. You're silent.
She's switching her thing.
So yeah, my AirPods died. I'm sorry. I was trying to do the little dance where like I thought I could get a little more life out of one of them, but then the other one gave up before I could switch. So
But
we're
anyway,
over to my podcasting setup now. So yes, Tom, your question.
Okay, I use a keychain, and when I'm looking for a password for something, I find a whole bunch of things there that I have no idea what they're for, but I'm afraid to get rid of them because they're probably something used by the system, and if I delete it, the whole system will crash.
Okay. Here's what you can do. Keychain access. If you're using iCloud Keychain on your phone, then all of those passwords are available for you to manage in the Keychain access utility on your Mac. And
Yeah,
so you can look at it on your Mac and it should give you more information. So
It
it'll say
doesn't.
this is a certificate, or it'll say you created it on this day, or
It says when it was created, and it says it's a password, but what it's a password for just doesn't make any sense.
Tom, what I do is when I have to put in a password, I make a secure note, and then I can put everything I want in there. There are a lot of automatically generated when I go out to somewhere and it says you want to keep it. I don't worry with those. I make secure notes for everything I want, and I can put the date when I updated something. You can keep a history. You can put all kinds of stuff in secure notes. It's still secure, and it's just that it's easier for me to find them that way.
Yeah.
It
But
also
it should have some sort of indicator, like it'll say on it, com.apple.something, or it'll say, like I have a couple for QNAP, and it'll say the kind. So it'll say like application password, internet password, network password. It should have something like that if you look at it in the Keychain access utility on your computer. And then if you double click on one of them, even if it's like gibberish, it should still say like it's an application password and it's from October 31st, 2019. And like maybe that can help. So like there should be at least a little bit of an indicator. And even if it's vague, you probably don't have hundreds of them, but you could always try deleting it and see there's no item in Keychain access that is going to brick your computer if you remove it. Not one.
Aren't some of those passwords he's seeing encrypted passwords, so you really can't tell what they are?
Well, it never shows you the password. You have to check the box for show password, and then you have to enter like the Keychain password.
Even some of those look encrypted once you open them up.
Well, they look encrypted, but it's really because it's using 24 characters of gibberish or whatever, and so it looks like encrypted data, even if it's not.
But if you know you didn't make it encrypt, I mean, you didn't encrypt it, but it's some Apple system password. It'll be something you can't read anyway.
Yeah, because choose strong password is just going to be a string of like letters and numbers anyway, so it's going to look like encrypted data, even when it's not encrypted. Like you can decrypt it. That's part of what you're doing when you enter the password for the keychain, so that you can see that password is you're decrypting that data. And once you decrypt that data, then what you're looking at is still going to kind of look like encrypted data because it's just going to be a long string of nonsense. So if you're using a password manager that is not iCloud Keychain or Keychain Access, a lot of them have an option in the generator for a memorable password, so you can make it be words. So you can make it be poster meeting speaker, and then you put a little number in between them or whatever, and you can make all of them at least that way, like if it ever is a thing that you end up having to type for some reason, it's a lot less likely you will make mistakes, because you can type a word. Like, I know how to type the word poster. I don't know how to type capital Q, lowercase f, 7, 3, x, on and on. So
I just shared the poll with everybody, just to interrupt for a second.
I was going to add to the password thing that when you're since Ginger and I tend to use the secure note method rather than just have it automatically. I use both actually, but I tend to create records like that so I can put additional information in, like when I changed it and all this other malarkey. One thing I do is when I create each password is unique, and I try to really mix it up with upper and lower case numbers and odd characters and stuff. And I also try to attach at some part of it a marker that will tell me what the password is for, like a contraction of the name of of where it's targeted. And this is probably good and bad, but since the record is already marked with the name of what it is, I'm not giving anything away. That way, if I ever get an annoying email that says, "Oh, we've totally compromised you, pay up," or whatever, I will know what leaked. If they include the password, they say, "Oh, and this is how we know that this is how you can tell that we were really serious," and they include a password. I can look at it and go, that's where the vulnerability was.
Well, and that's the other reason that you want everything to have a different password. So
exactly,
the part that you're talking about, a lot of people talked about, like, there was a stretch of time where it was like, oh, I have this system for, like, I use 4 digits for the time and then an abbreviation of the website and then blah and then blah, and that's my password. And if you're doing that, if somebody gets your password once, they can try something similar, look at that password and go, okay, if I try 4 random digits and then this, or if they have data about the file, like I can see when it was created, so I can see that you used the time as the first 4 characters of your password. Now I can get into all the rest of your stuff. So that's part of why that one isn't necessarily a good idea. But also, if, like, the reason it's important that the password always be different is because like LinkedIn had a data breach lately, right? And LinkedIn's like, if somebody gets my LinkedIn password, all they can do is go update my resume. Now, if I'm using the same password on LinkedIn as I am on Amazon, that's a very different proposition.
Oh, no. That's the thing. No, these are all these strings are wildly different. So
yeah. But that's why it's important to have a different password everywhere. Also, because the out here we call it the PETA factor, the pain in the neck. Factor of changing passwords is very easy if it's just LinkedIn had a data breach. Let me go change my LinkedIn password. So I go to the password change page and I go reset password, and I tell my password manager, make it something memorable, and then I hit save, and now I never have to think about it again. I did it once. It took me a couple of minutes and I'm finished. I don't have to go change 10 things because I know they were all using the same password. That's part of where, like, search your password manager for that secret thing that you used to do. When everybody only ever had 2 or 3 or 4 things that they were rotating through as their password situation. That's another place a password manager comes in handy. And cleaning that stuff up from back in the day is also really nice. Every so often we talk about a data breach over at TDO, and it's like, oh yeah, remember them? Yeah, you know what? They have my information, and they had that old password that is kicking around, and I need now. I need to make sure I don't have any of that stuff anymore. And a lot of password managers have a service that tracks, like, here's places that have had data leaks or data breaches, or user data has been exposed in some fashion, and then it'll give you a little alert. If you go look at your open the password manager app and look at your stuff, you'll see in there, like, it'll say, here's all the ones that data, there has been a data breach and you haven't changed your password since that data breach, so you probably ought to update it now. Or or there's been a data leak and user data was exposed from this website, so you may want to see about updating your password, that sort of thing.
That's what's annoying about all this stuff, is I really don't worry about my screwing up necessarily and coming up with an insanely stupid password. I worry about having a really good password in each instance, and then having the other end, having the corporate entity totally remiss. And then they're like, oh, well, here, you can get this useless credit check thing for like a year until we start charging for it. And it's just horrible. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but for some reason, I set the meeting for 7 till 9:30. I don't know if we can run over it or not, I just assumed it ran longer, but because it's been
passwords
great.
was my last item, so like that's all. That was like my own personal agenda is finished. I've done my part.
It's been great.
It has been.
The time limit on the meeting is arbitrary. You just said it because you want to try to conclude at that time, but Zoom will not stop you.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. I wasn't sure.
The only other thing I'd add to all this is like when you're helping, I help people with computer issues, and one of the best things that Apple ever did, the one thing that they really got right is remote desktop, or whatever they call it, screen sharing. Yeah. I can't tell you how many hours of like hair pulling grief that screen sharing can save you. Like mother-in-law up in Arkansas, and we're here in Austin, and she's giving us cryptic messages like the screen, what is it? The curtain came down over the ocean. What does that mean? Oh, it means she's got an ocean screensaver and she got a dialog box.
Yeah. Yeah. I have been told that my superpower is translating from end user into useful information into English. So I understand it. I was most of the way there when you said that's what that was. I'm like, okay, so the ocean would be the desktop. So what comes down over the desktop? Because she's got a wallpaper that's the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I totally get it. And like, so
I just want to say my 94-year-old mom is using a computer, so I'm pretty awe-inspired that she's still going for it. Of course, she's got a Mac.
That helps. Yeah. I finally got most of my family converted, and that was a lot of why was, if you don't, it finally got to the point where I said, if you don't, I can't help you with any of this anymore, because I don't know. And I don't use it anymore, and I don't have to, and I don't.
And life is too short for you to even have to learn.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't have the patience for this. And it got a lot easier once everybody got an iPhone, and I'm like, imagine if your computer was this awesome. It can be. And then everybody got a Mac, and so then life was better. So it was super helpful.
That is tough. Being a tech support person, you get every family tech support question, even on your off time. My heart goes out to you, Kelly, and thanks so much for sharing all this.
Oh, you're so welcome. I am Family IT. Our last family reunion, I had to have a sign-up sheet.
And a brain care specialist.
Well, we had margaritas. It was fine.
There you go.
That sounds good.
At least it keeps them off politics.
Oh,
yes.
God, don't even say that.
As great as this has been, I think it's time we need to wrap things up. Any last minute questions or comments before we put an end to this meeting?
Yes, I've got one quick one. To Peter and to other people that have been helping people with their Macs, please tell me what you've done, the dates and so forth, so you can get your points. Or in Peter's case, Ginger, tell me what he's been up to. He won't do it.
Yeah, he doesn't quite get around to it. And I know it's important for the club to document that we actually are helping people, because that's part of us being a resource. So it's not like you're bragging. You're actually helping the club take credit for helping in the community.
Well,
and keep the IRS off our backs.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, I was late to the meeting because there was a guy down in Houston who I talked into getting a nice refurbed 2018 i7 6-core Mac Mini with a terabyte and 16 gig of memory. And he was coming from a 2010 Mac Mini, and he said it exceeded his expectations, and he was totally overjoyed. And I was
problem is he didn't understand that it wouldn't magically connect to everything he already had. He had to have adapters and cables, and it's like, I mean, you buy a lamp, it's not going to light up if you don't plug it into the wall. I mean, think about it, but
yeah, but people who don't live, eat, and breathe computers really don't understand
No, they
Oh, yeah.
really don't.
They
That's
really
true.
don't.
And
I
a
mean,
lot
they
of the
don't
cables
understand
look
what
weird.
they don't understand.
Yeah. And they're intimidated to try.
Like Tommy has cables going all over the place, and I don't know what they're connected to.
It's always an adventure. I mean, I
Yep.
find that every so often.
Mm.
Same thing.
Well, Kelly, thank you. This has been outstanding.
Yes,
It's been great.
outstanding.
Yay, Kelly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come back.
All the
Thank you
things
so
that I
Really-
much.
have to do now.
You need to go find your podcast so we'll be motivated on a regular basis.
This is
Well,
great.
The
You
link was
don't-
in the email.
I'll tell you, you don't have to just listen. I'm going to take a moment here and promote. You don't have to just listen to me talk about the Apple Gear, because I have a podcast called I Want My MCU TV, where we talk about the streaming Marvel shows on Disney Plus. And so that's me and Lisa Schmeiser and Don Melton. And Don Melton may sound familiar because he wrote WebKit.
Yeah.
Which is what powers
that's
Safari. So I finally have a podcast I
Wow.
can talk about that, like, my family can follow along. Like, I have a podcast with the
Yay.
guy that wrote Safari, and that's a thing that they're impressed by. So we do that one, which is Marvel stuff. You can occasionally hear me over on The Incomparable at theincomparable.com. I show up on other shows there. We talk about a lot of different pop culture things. And so, like, I was on the episode we did where we talked about the first season of Ted Lasso. I talk about Star Wars there a lot because I generally am talking about Star Wars a lot. And you can do, and they're like, I'm not hard to find. I'm on Mac Voices Live most Tuesdays, but not tonight. And lots of other places.
Wow.
I'm very, very hard to miss.
Yeah, maybe that's what SMB stands for, is Star Wars Marvel backstory.
Very good, Peter.
By
That's
the
good.
way, where can I get a cool T-shirt like that with a little spinny wheel?
Sadly, it may exist elsewhere. This one is one that Panic Software used to make. They don't do T-shirts anymore. But this is one I got this one from them.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm sure there are other iterations out there now. But yeah, this is one from Panic. They're local. So I used to volunteer with an organization that helped 8th and 9th grade girls learn iOS development. And so Panic would let us take field trips to their offices. And so we would do field trips there, and sort of in my mind anyway, we were ruining a generation for cubicle work. And so, because the Panic office is amazing. If you haven't seen it, go to their website. On their blog, they have like an office tour, and it's awesome. And so we would take kids there and be like, this is a real life software company that makes actual software that people buy, and that's their whole job. And look at this amazing office that you never
could
ever
work,
have to be part of.
Yeah, you could work here. Two other
You
questions.
live in Portland?
Yes.
Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
Oh, and out of curiosity, who's your internet provider, and what speed connection do you have? Because it's excellent.
I have Comcast, and generally it's appalling, but I did preemptively reset my modem before the meeting, so that might be why it's solid.
Yeah. Oh, Comcast. I'm sorry for you.
I have a special set of words my mom doesn't think I know for Comcast.
Yeah. Well, I have a little doll that I stick pins in. That's that. Yeah. We're fortunate. We got on Google Fiber, and it totally rocks.
Yeah,
So,
I live really far out,
mine
so
doesn't.
fiber's probably not happening anytime soon.
Mine so doesn't.
Mary, yours
But-
doesn't. Your Google Fiber doesn't
mine
work.
does not rock. But it's not really them. It's that I don't really know how to. What do you call it? The modem, we only have one Ethernet connection, and it's in the worst possible place, and the house is not that small. So I don't know how to make the signal better. I mean, like, I'm gonna have to get some.
They have a thing called bring your own modem. It used to be that you had to use their hardware or go through all kinds of grief to get around. They had an 802 something quality of service thing that you had to get around. They don't do that anymore. And so when Google Fiber installed it here, I asked the guy, and it's just a checkoff. Literally, it's a checkbox, and it's bring your own router. And so I'm an ASUS router bigot, and I set up an ASUS router, and it's blazingly fast.
And wired connections instead of Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
also can cause grief.
Yeah, and there's only one. I don't know how to. I'm really probably shouldn't even be here, and I don't know how to. There's only one Ethernet connection, and there's really not.
That's okay.
You
That's
need to go to
easily
a switch
fixed.
or a router.
Oh, you can fix that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's super easy
Who
to
can
fix.
I
And
pay to fix
There's a
this
switch
crap?
for that.
There is.
Yeah, and they're inexpensive, probably on the order of $20-something.
Yeah,
Good
the switch
grief.
is a
Now, I
device
have
that you can
a
plug in.
setup with. I have a setup with Google router going into a switch, an 8-port switch, and off of the 8-port switch are on my my NAS unit, a PC, and a Mac, and other devices.
So Mary, it's kind of like when you have too many things to plug into your wall, and you get one of those 6-way things that you plug in, and now you can plug 6 things in. You can buy a switch that has 8 Ethernet outputs, and I mean, we've got wires running all around our house, but
how do you? Yeah, I can't get the wires there.
Well, there are a lot of ways that you can solve a bad Wi-Fi issue. The first thing to do is make sure that you've got a decent router. Because that will help dish that signal out to other places.
make sure the antenna is pointing up if it has an antenna. You can change the direction of the antenna.
I'm seeing a huge point scoring opportunity here for somebody, but there's a couple of ways to go with this. The first one would be to have a good router and figure out where you can put it, because you can run a long cord between the modem and the router, so you can put the router up higher in that spot, whatever it is or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
My house was built in the late 70s, so it's a split level, so I have a nice hollow core like right up the center that gives me a lot of opportunity for crazy wiring stuff. So I have the advantage in that case. But
yeah, we don't. The house is long, skinny, and it's at one end.
Then what you probably need is something called mesh networking.
Yeah,
and
that's what I've kind of figured.
Mesh networking, the like 50,000 foot level explanation of it is you put little outposts along the way. So you have the router at one end of your house, right? You got the router, and then from the router you have this little outpost that's partway down the house, and that outpost talks to the router.
Yeah,
but
that's what we need.
Sort of a little router of its own. And then so further down the house, you have another one, and then another one, however many you need. I don't know how long your house is. But
that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Some number of them, and then each one becomes the router for the next one down. So the one at the opposite end of the house isn't talking to the one by the router, it's talking to the one closest to it. And those mesh network connections are very easy to set up. They're not super cheap, but they are not super expensive either. If you were looking to set up a solid network, it would be comparable to like buying a solid router with 9 antennas and all that stuff on it. You'd be in the same neighborhood. And then the other nice thing about it is that you can adjust those where you need them. So if you find that there's still a weird dead spot 3/4 of the way down, you just move another thing, or you buy another one. If you find out that the coverage in the backyard is crap, you buy a new one that can help cover the backyard, and then you can
in the backyard
Apple Music while you're mowing.
So
this is a problem I personally have solved with my router. So
that's thank you. I didn't mean to take up all this time. That's what I'm going to have to do, and I'm a little bit scared of doing it because, like, well, me being totally blind, I'm not very good at aiming the camera at the QR codes.
Take a
You
deep
can
breath.
get somebody to help you out, Mary.
Yeah, Mary. Here's your 3-step process. Okay, first step: take a deep breath and tell yourself that you've got this, because you do. I guarantee it.
You got it.
And then the second thing to do is you find out what it is that Peter likes to drink, and you buy a bottle of that. And then the third thing you do. Did I not mention that's how we operate here? Did I not mention that's like, yeah. So you buy a bottle of something nice, and you have somebody come over and help guide you through this. Like,
you know,
Or-
this sound.
He already
this
helped
sound-
me out with my Windows computer
Yeah.
that I used for 5 years.
Well, I would come over and help you, but it's kind of far
No,
and it's
you're
kind of
far.
2020
I
still.
think-
So I'm sort of out of the running for that one.
Well, this sounds like something that this would be a good presentation subject, relatively short, with
Yeah.
lots of pictures, you know, that kind of thing.
The other thing
Case
I would tell
study.
you, Mary, is that Dave Hamilton over at the Mac Observer sort of has taken on mesh networking as his hobby.
Ah,
So you can find lots of information on Mac Geek Gab about mesh networking.
mesh networking. Yeah, that's what I thought I was going to have to do.
And if you look through the Daily Observations archives, I have Dave on occasionally to sort of
I'll have
talk
to
to
look
me
at
about
that.
the state of mesh Wi-Fi. And he names names too. Like this one has a user interface that's really hard to use. It sucks. So
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
you are a
I like
network
that.
person,
Ooh,
don't
ooh.
get that one because you won't be able to figure it out.
We-
If you are not a network person, then this one is the one you want to buy because it's easy to set up and it's easy to configure. And if you have to make adjustments, like the interface is not inscrutable. Like you can actually see what it's doing and you can make those adjustments. So
What do you have?
I do
Well,
not,
what
because
if-
like I said, I have the hollow core. So I just have a 6 or 7 year old ASUS router, and I have and I brought my own modem to Comcast because they were never going to upgrade to the new DOCSIS stuff. So I upgraded to a DOCSIS 3.2 modem for about $80, and that gave me like actual internet speed again. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
helpful. So yeah, that's what mine is, because I don't have a lot of reception issues. So I did find I had to readjust where the router physically lived so that I could stay on Wi-Fi and stream Apple Music while I was mowing the backyard. That actually is a thing that happened at my house.
So Mary, that's the other thing, is we had the router when Google installed it. Peter told him where he wanted the router, and it's in the middle of the house instead of at one end. They'll put it at one end because it's easy, but if you make it, you know, I want it in the middle. Yeah,
well, and I made it easy for the guy to do. In other words, I planned it out in such a way. I had to get, when Google, before they even put the fiber in the street, I negotiated with them to get them to put it at the other end of the house. You know, because I said it'll make for an easy install.
Yeah.
And then it
with
worked
our
really
driveway
well.
and everything. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, the thing is if you kind of, it's really, another thing too is mesh sounds great, except it's all radios. But if you use what they call wired backhaul, where you use Ethernet to the mesh device, you get full speed everywhere. So anyway, but that's,
and only certain mesh networks allow for Ethernet backhaul, and that's part of what we talked about on Daily Observations and what that is and why it matters. So
cool.
Yeah, we jammed a lot into that. So you can
yeah,
I feel like we did that recently.
Yeah.
Not like
have to
this year.
look.
I think we did another mesh Wi-Fi, probably I would say sometime in January, maybe in February, because it was right after CES. I think we
I'll
talked
have to
about
look
like
in
what the
there.
new stuff was that was coming. So if you go look for like mesh Wi-Fi over at Mac Observer, you should find some podcasts where Dave was talking about it, whether it was Daily Observations or not.
I'm really intimidated about it, and just because
don't
if I
be
have to-
intimidated. It's just something that you don't understand yet, and it like most of what you need to know about it isn't going to be complicated because you know stuff already, right? Like you know about Wi-Fi, you know that networks is like making all your stuff talk to all your other stuff, all those things. Like you have all of that already. So
I have that.
The part you actually need is just a little bit more knowledge about the part of the network equation that actually shoves the data around.
Yeah,
that's the only part.
And how to
that's not
how
a big
to aim a camera at a QR code that I can't see.
Yeah, that part I can't help you with. I refer you back to my
I'm
earlier
serious. That is
comments.
really
I'll
intimidating.
teach you how to do that, Mary.
Yeah, get somebody else to
teach
do
you
that.
how to do that.
Well, Koki says she can help you. I will refer you to my earlier comments about buying a bottle.
That is so funny. Yeah, something nice. Oh, Koki would I could find something nice. I didn't even mean to take all this time. I'm so sorry.
Don't.
Oh, that's why we're a club.
That's why we're a club.
You didn't know when you started, and now you know a tiny bit more.
Now I know more.
So
It's
I win.
It's common
I know
questions
more
that many of us have.
Yeah, and
So
Yes.
It's very
Mary,
worthwhile.
I will tell you, I've given security talks that were very
Yes, hard. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
I've given really basic security talks just to give people enough information to be able to ask the questions they actually want to ask. Because I've gotten a lot of feedback like I didn't even know where to start asking questions. So
Yeah.
so like having some of the terminology around it makes it possible to ask the stuff you want to know and then learn more.
A mesh network.
Mesh network.
Yeah,
the
I
phrase
wish that we
pays.
could do it with the Ethernet, but we really kind of can't.
Oh,
Because
I bet
there's
you
one,
can. If somebody's if you know
we had
somebody
it
who's
before
creative
when
and
yeah,
runs on
we had-
pizza, you're set.
we had 50 or 60 feet of a cord that went through the attic at one point. That was the only way to do it, and that just isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
Well, for a lot of times you can go to whoever your network provider is, and for a nominal fee, they will put drops in your house.
Yeah.
I think when I had, I forget who
Should
it
call
was
them.
now, for $25 a drop or something along those lines. Now, this has been a few years ago. I had them drop 2 or 3 drops, RJ45 drops, Cat 5 throughout the house. So
Hey, that's
check
nice.
with them.
Yeah.
So
Some
they might
places-
even be able to do it.
Yeah, some places will, and if not,
Yeah.
if you know a like a general contractor, they're usually pretty
They'll
solid on
do
that
it
kind of
too.
stuff too.
That's
Like
great.
yeah, and you can usually find someone that's willing to assist in that.
I
so.
will get working on it because I'm tired of
Good job.
walking around the house with my phone cutting out.
Yeah, there's no reason in 2021. There's no reason for that to be the case, no matter
Go
what your
for
house
it,
is.
Mary.
I mean, you're not
don't
mailing
have
us
to.
postcards from a Faraday cage, so I'm pretty sure there's no reason you should have to continue to live this way.
Well, you're nice. Thank you. This is the first time I've ever lost it like this at one of these meetings.
But you asked some very good
no.
questions.
You asked a bunch of questions and you got a bunch of information that you
Yeah,
needed. That
sure
sounds
did.
terrible.
It's been a while now.
Gotta
but
live
Dave,
the life you want.
Dave actually gave us a presentation on mesh networks when most of us
Yeah.
never even heard the term. But I'm assuming that program is not on the website.
No, because I
That
think
is.
that was
It is on
before
the
we started
website.
recording it, wasn't it?
Well, we didn't record it, but he put his the information he
His-
gave us and stuff. I'm pretty
Yeah, I'll
sure
have
it's
to
on the
look and see
website.
what's on the website.
Yeah, but
And I
since
probably
then-
know more than I think I
But
do.
Whatever you do, and whatever he told you may be out of date if it wasn't like this year. So
Yeah, it's a
that would be
couple
the
of
other
2 or
thing.
3
because-
years ago.
Nancy,
Yeah.
I want to say that was my first year I left is when Dave did that mesh network.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a while.
So that's been at least
Yeah.
2 years.
Because he
Probably
did,
closer to 2.5.
because there was
Sounds
some,
like an
stuff
opportunity for a
changes fast.
future
Well,
meeting.
And with Wi-Fi 6 now coming out, that would
And
be an
that-
excellent topic to update on.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
I
Because
would
there's going to be lots of new technology for that.
definitely invite him back for that, because that was part of what we talked about. That's why I remember it was this year, because at CES there were a couple of mesh Wi-Fi folks that were talking about how Wi-Fi 6 was coming as part of like a software update. I think Orbi was one of them, which is what Tom's holding up right now.
Yeah,
We're trying
it came
to.
today.
Nice.
Mesh.
So yeah,
Cool.
mesh networking, and like I said, it gives you these little outposts, and then each of those outposts sort of becomes a Wi-Fi network of its own, and then they do all the work amongst themselves to figure out how to make your network awesome. You don't
That
have to do
sounds
any of
great.
that. It's
Well,
like if it's
and
a
they
thing
have
that is helpful to
beam
you, it's
forming.
awesome.
They usually have
Sounds
beamforming
good.
as well, which helps that you're not having to adjust antennas to optimize it. It does it on its own.
They figure out where the other ones are and point in that direction.
That is just
So-
the coolest.
And
Yeah.
even if you can't connect this thing by cable one to the other,
Mm.
it does a back channel that's different from the Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
which is super fast.
Oh,
That's the backhaul piece we were talking about, is all of its internal communication can happen over Ethernet, so that the wireless part of the network is available for you to use. And all of the network chatter stuff happens sort of behind the scenes, and you don't ever have to worry about it affecting your network throughput.
But
at
even-
least we do have an Ethernet connection. I mean,
Yeah.
I know
Then you-
people that don't have that at all. So,
Yeah.
you
Then
know,
then
I,
you're
I,
good.
I
Yeah.
can't get Ethernet from one of these to the other one. So that will also be wireless, but it's a back channel wireless on a different
That's
frequency.
pretty. Yeah, that would help a lot.
Yeah, and that's part of
yeah,
what
that
makes those
sounds
networks
great.
so clever, and what makes it an upgrade from whatever you're using now. If you have any kind of issue with reception or with throughput, is that you can use it does also have a wireless back channel option.
Yeah,
that's great. Just have to do
Well,
it.
I think we should call a stop to this. We're
Wow,
at an
this is
hour.
a wonderful meeting.
Way into the meeting.
I have one last question. I really need to know, Craig, what is your background?
Looks like the library in Dublin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it? Craig, you're on mute.
There. Okay, yes, it's the long room. It's Trinity Library in Dublin, Ireland.
Okay.
That's the one that has the Book of Kells and stuff in it. I mean, it's a lovely library.
Yeah, it's a very nice
But
library.
he's floating. I was down on the ground when I took that picture. He's up suspended between the first and second floor. I mean, Craig's awesome.
Yeah, that's a really impressive library.
Yeah, I wish it was mine, but no.
Yeah, in the old days, I used to just go walk around Powell's and pretend. So
Powell's. Are they open still?
It comes and goes. Oregon's having a hard time.
But they're open for online purchase.
Yeah, as a business, it continues to exist. I do not get to go huff books anymore. But I would.
Craig, you got to tell her what your background is.
Kelly, can we ask you back again?
Anytime you'd like.
Fantastic. We will do so.
It sounds like the passwords one might be a good one for her to do.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. We all need to, once by the time she comes back, we all would have cleaned up everything else. So passwords was like what we would need to tackle.
I've been really bad. I need to go to password rehab.
Everybody needs to go to password rehab at some point. It happens to everybody. So.
Well, I'm as soon as I hang up, I'm going to LinkedIn and make sure I update mine. Thanks for the tip.
I'm gonna have to go through all my LastPass entries and make sure they're all clean.
Yeah, and I think LastPass has the same sort of service where they'll tell you if your password was caught in a data breach. I think that's a service that they offer as well.
Especially if you're paying for it.
Yeah.
You're saying Keychain will tell you?
Keychain does.
No, Keychain.
I thought.
Keychain has some capability for that, but I don't know where. I don't remember where Keychain Access is getting its data from. And the other ones are public about and like the level of it. So this one has ever had a data breach. Maybe you should update, and like you haven't changed your password since the data breach we know about with this one, or like 1Password even has duplicates. So it'll say like you used this password somewhere else, you need to change it. And I think LastPass has that as well, where you can search for the password. So I'm going to give you a free password level up tip here at the end. If you're using a password manager, you can use tags. You can usually, a lot of them have, I think all of them have the feature where you can put tags on items. And I have a tag for, and I put like all the information I can find off my card, off the credit card or the debit card or whatever. I will put all of that in 1Password. And then I have a tag that is called in wallet. And I put it on everything that's in my wallet. And then if my wallet evaporates, which happened to me once, I know everybody that I need to call.
That's cool.
Very good idea.
That's really
the other one is I made up a tag for my like default Visa card that I use for like everything. I have a tag for it. And so the login for the bill that I pay with that, and the login for where if I have that stored at Amazon or other places that I pay for stuff, all of those logins have that tag for my Visa card. And then when they magically mail me a new Visa card because they screwed up and now I have a new credit card number, I know all the places that I need to change it.
Very good idea.
Yes,
that's the other reason that you
I
need a
didn't know
password
you could do that.
Can you
I
do
didn't know that
tags in
1Password let you
Keychain?
tag.
I don't know if you, I don't think there's tags in Keychain Man.
But you can use secure notes to capture some of that info.
Yeah.
And
Right,
then search, find it.
Then just search on the card and
Yeah.
all the appropriate notes will pop up.
Yeah. Boy, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You said
Oh,
one
yeah, we'll
password lets you
definitely
do
have to
that?
talk more about that.
Yeah. After I ended up getting 4 new credit cards in less than a year, that taught me the hard way. Like, I need a better way to make sure this stuff can get updated. And so, and none of them were my fault. That was the thing that was so frustrating. Like, I did everything right, and I wasn't giving my credit card to anybody sketchy or anything like that. And they were like, there has been a data breach somewhere in the world, and now we are doing you a favor by giving you a new credit card. And I'm like, it's not a favor. I have a word for it. It's not a favor. And
not a favor.
Yeah, favor is not the word that starts with F, I want to say right now, because you're giving me my 3rd credit card number in like 4 months. So so those are some of the things that make it nice about outsourcing your passwords and that information to other places, is that it makes it so much easier. So I'm going to save the rest of that talk for when hopefully y'all have me back so I can talk to you about that instead.
That'd be great.
And I'm sorry to give everybody homework, but I hope it's not like terrible homework and that it ends up at the end that you feel really good about getting your stuff cleaned up.
Well,
Very
Kel,
good,
when you come in person to give us a talk when we get back meeting physically, I'll buy you a margarita.
Me too.
Really? Oh. 2 down.
I hope we can do the margaritas soon.
I'm Max Vax. So yes, I had the sequel injection more than a month ago. And in fact, I went and my mom has been Max Vax for a while. And so last Friday, for Mother's Day weekend, last Friday, I sort of snuck. I left my old iPhone here as Find My Friend so my mom wouldn't track me. And I snuck. She lives 200 miles away. And so I snuck to Eastern Washington. And my stepdad told her that he ordered pizza delivery for dinner. And so I went and got pizza and I showed up at the house and I was the delivery, but also of pizza.
Aww.
So, and
Sneaky.
and my stepdad kept his mouth shut the entire time and she had no idea it was happening. And that is very, very unusual.
That's great.
That's great.
I owe my husband $1 because he was like, there's no way he's sitting on that until you get there. There's no way. So, but it happened. And so, it was very exciting to get to go somewhere.
Yes.
So
we're looking at September or so.
That sounds great.
In person. Yeah.
I get chat number 2 on Friday.
All right. That sounds great.
That would be wonderful.
Oh,
That would be